You two totally look like you're about to like draw knives and just fight. You're like
We are?
Well, I have this total side-on view, Perry. You're really like this. What should we talk about?
What should we talk about? Now you go.
I'm drinking my Jack Daniels.
But it's like in like
I'm doing this in my beer.
Yeah.
Oh, I probably shouldn't do that right next to the microphone, huh?
It's like Foley. It's like extra sound effects.
Like whenever we have canned beer, I always open it next to the microphone.
Yeah, it works out real well.
Okay.
Carlos loves it.
All right, let's do this podcast. We're going.
Okay.
We have returning guest with us, Tadhg Kelly.
Hello.
You are returning guest 3 times? Third?
This is my third, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Not quite, as they say, Steve Martin status yet, but you're getting there.
Okay.
I was thinking about this on the bus. I think there should be a leaderboard for returning guests.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like a challenge.
I win.
Or competition.
Mm-hmm.
Kinsey might be excluded from the tournament. If you're here like almost every episode, it's going to get, yeah. Although, that being said, for the first-time listeners, the very beginning of this podcast, it was a group of people, a group of friends of mine, Atticus, who's been on again. But then I kind of turned it into more of an interviewee show. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to keep doing the interview-focused shows, but they'll just kind of alternate with a group of our friends talking about games.
I think that's a really good idea.
And sometimes, like today, we already know enough about Tadhg Kelly.
Nobody knows anything about me. I'm a mystery.
I think people on the internet might know. But we can just get right down to it, right? So,
cool.
I mean, if we had Tom Hanks here, we'd probably have to talk about him for a little while.
Shh. Who's Tom Hanks?
Nah.
I don't know, he's a guy.
Okay.
He should interview me.
I'm not familiar with your American references.
I don't know how to deal with both of the statements you just said, but Bosom Buddies, that was my jam for Tom Hanks. He was funny in that. And I was like, who's this funny guy?
Bosom Buddies.
Although if you think about the show, it's ridiculous.
Okay.
You don't know what this is. Oh, you're too young. Kinsey's like blank stare.
I like some jams, though.
Tom
there's that.
Hanks dressed up as a lady with his friend, also a guy, also dressed up as a lady, so they can get cheap rent at this place. And then they like hit on these girls that they liked, but they hit on them kind of like while they were in drag because the girls didn't think they were guys.
I'm sure I've seen this film about 400 times before.
Oh, it's a TV series.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wait.
Wait,
Why
they
do they
keep
get
it-
cheaper rent? Because they're women?
I
I'm very
think
confused.
It's some sort of like special housing that they couldn't get into unless they were women. It was like only
like
women
a boarding
housing.
house?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're like, well, we're like struggling artists. We need to like get something. So let's just do this. And for some reason, the girls never know that it's them. It's like the Superman like
Okay.
glasses thing.
Right. The
So
necessary.
they'll like be in the room with like Tom Hanks is in the room with the girl he likes
Right.
as a girl, and she's like, I'm gonna undress.
Right.
And he's like, okay.
Right.
I'll help you.
Have you ever seen any shows with Tom Hanks' son, Colin Hanks?
Oh yeah.
Isn't it freaky how exactly like Tom Hanks he looks?
Yeah.
Like exactly like right. There was a show that he did a couple of years ago called he did it with Bradley Whitford, the guy who's from the West Wing, played Josh in the West Wing. They
Oh,
had
that's right,
It was
yeah.
like this kind of Dallas Cops kind of thing, and Bradley Whitford was playing this like crazy old Southern, like ridiculous kind of drunken detective type, and your man Colin Hanks is playing the sober professional.
Yeah.
Actually try and get things done, detective and stuff. Went on for about a year, and it just my wife and I used to watch it all the time. And be like, it's so exactly. It's like it's weird.
It's mini Hanks.
It's like he's been photocopied from the future or something, or from the past even, and brought forward in time or whatever. Right?
I was really hoping that you were going to do a Southern accent, by the way.
He was right there.
You're right there, and I was like, yes!
Give me this is going to be terrible. Give me a beer.
Oh, and you have one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk about some games we're playing. I'll start because I'm really excited about this game. And I said that it was kind of as a question because I'm excited and also perplexed. Unless someone else wants to start.
Nope, you're already going.
Is
Okay.
it Dominoes?
Domino's the game?
Yeah. Is it chess?
Oh, Domino's the game. I was like, the pizza?
Oh,
There's also that, what was that, the Spot? No,
Cool Spot 7-Up. Thank
and
you.
then to avoid the Noid was a game,
Yo-Noid?
right? Yo-Noid, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For Super Nintendo?
So it wasn't either of those.
Okay.
Disappointing.
The Evil Within. I'm playing The Evil Within.
Ooh, very nice.
And for those listeners at home, I'm wearing an Evil Within t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
It works really well for audio podcasts.
Yeah.
Just like Kinsey wearing a really cool dress that you can't see.
I really wanted to wear it.
It's
awesome.
It looks a lot like an Eye of Sauron sort of t-shirt.
The Evil Within one, yes.
Yeah.
So We were at PAX. No, GDC. Where the hell were we?
You
I
were
was
at PAX.
somewhere. Was it PAX?
Yeah.
And we got, some lady was like, come to this party. And then a friend of our friends was like, got us in early or something. And we got this t-shirt. When we get there, and me and Robbie, who's been on the podcast quite a bit, got in there and got to go in basically like a fake haunted house, And what's funny is that now that I played the game, it makes much more sense. Because in the beginning, I'm like, they're trying to be funny, and there's like a receptionist, she sees a nurse, and meh. But then like that scene's in the game.
Right.
And in that moment, like you go through the haunted house and it's kind of scary, and then you get out and you play the game. But that demo they had there was super limited, and it didn't have those scenes in it. It was just like random parts in this building.
Right.
So I think it's really interesting that I think they picked the wrong part of the demo, because I was kind of like, well, this is just not that fun, and also not scary, and you just were trying to scare me, like literally, with people, scary people. And by the way, funny side story, which I don't know if we said on this podcast, but Robbie, during that thing, there was simple like jump scares in that haunted house. Like, you shouldn't. Come on. It's going to get some people. But one guy jumped out from behind a bush or something, scared Robbie so badly that he jumped in the air and kicked the wall. I was like, did that just happen? What? And it wasn't even that scary.
Right.
And he's like, I don't know, just keep over me. But we played the demo there, and I was like, not super impressed and interested still. And then I put off getting it for a while. And basically, it's the creator, one of the original creators of Resident Evil. So the game is definitely harkens back to Resident Evil 4 kind of feel. Not as bad controls, but still controls that are kind of clunky.
Wow, are we at that point where we talk about harkening back to Resident Evil 4? It feels like that was only like a few years ago.
Yeah, it still wasn't a few years ago.
I know,
It's
just so
GameCube,
weird
so-
though.
Yeah.
It's just so very present in my mind.
I know. I think I often say harken back to Resident Evil, like 1.
But that seems more legitimate. Yeah.
But it is
But
4.
maybe so, yeah.
Yeah.
What was it, like 8 years ago now? 9 years ago?
I could look it up, but I don't want to.
Something.
Yeah.
I can't because someone made me turn my phone on airplane mode.
That happens every podcast. You're surprised by it every time. Anyway, so the long and the short is, it's really weird. It has a feel like Silent Hill. And so instead of it just being a lot of the commercials and the marketing, you see like this picture of the kind of logo is a person's face like with barbed wire on it. And you're like, well, I don't like torture porn. I'm not into that. I'm over that. But what's interesting is once you get into the game, the very first like cutscene, you're like, this is a mixture of Silent Hill and Disaster Report. Remember that weird Japanese earthquake game or something?
Oh yeah. Where you're just sort of trying to escape the city.
Survive. Yeah. But the kind of wonkiness and the weirdness that happens in those games, that was like the weirdness that would happen in Silent Hill, and those characters that don't really feel real. That's going on. Like some really weird shit's happening in this game. And so I was like, oh, well, now I want to play it, because even these monsters that I'm going to meet are weird mutants or whatever they are. Like, it's not just like you're going into a place and these are killers and they're just killing people. It's like, where am I? Is this real? Like, you literally question where you are in the game, and is any of it really happening? I'd never thought that would be part of this game.
And that feels right.
And it feels good.
That feels awesome. Yeah.
So that's why I'm still playing it, and the only downfall I'll say is that the controls, on many podcasts people were talking about them being just bad. I think they work. I think they're better than, tank controls. They're not that. They're not the real old school, the trope of the genre is that you have to have bad controls.
Yeah, because it makes you feel scared.
Yeah, it makes you feel scared. That's bullshit.
Right.
But this one, it's better than that. There's some problems, like when you punch, it takes way too long to not stop punching.
Okay.
You're like, oh!
Yeah.
But all that stuff said, I just still like the video gameness of it. And so here's my thing to all the people who don't like it. Whatever. It's got issues. I definitely agree. But if you like Dark Souls and you don't like this game, you're wrong. Because basically this feels like Dark Souls, where Dark Souls feels like a video game. You know what I mean? Like a gamey video game. I know. I don't care for it. But,
no, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
Right? It's like you get this is a world that you're playing a video game in, and you're not losing sense of like where I'm. Yeah. It's like, this is a video game.
Right.
I've got to hit the button fast enough on this one thing. I've got to level up this one thing with this one inventory thing. That makes me win the game. You know? That's what this feels like. It feels video gamey, but also just like psychologically weird as shit.
Okay.
So that's why I like it.
Should it feel? Are you trying to say it should feel less video gamey?
I'm saying that
Is it
because
kind of like,
it does.
Does it intrude just a little too much with the mechanics, so to speak?
I'm saying that if it didn't, then we'd have to have an overhaul.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like it would have to be like, yeah, much better controls.
Okay.
Lots of stuff would have to change with it. The fact that what it is now, it just as it is. You just take it for what it is. It's like a video gamey game, and there's like weird psychological stuff. Like I would play a Silent Hill 2 to this day, and be like, well, I'm gonna deal with some of this crap that
Right.
I don't like the best, but the experience is fun.
Right.
Does that make sense? So I like the experience. I think it's weirdly difficult at times where like you have a knife and you can stealth kill people with it, but then you can't attack with it.
What?
You still have the knife. What the fuck?
Right.
Right?
Right.
The little things like that just get like, oh, well, just give me a little bit more.
Where it just breaks a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, that's
So-
like famously. Did you ever play Doom 3? Right?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, you're running around the place. You've got like biggest freaking gun you can get your hands on, etc., etc., etc. But for some reason, you can't do that and also hold a torch at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just a weird, ridiculous thing. You're like, that just doesn't feel like it's sense.
That's not right.
It's just
Yeah.
not a real thing.
Yeah.
Like it's like I see why you're doing it. Sure, it creates like tension. Oh my god, it's so dark.
Yeah.
But it feels stupid at the same time.
Yeah.
Like a bad horror movie, stupid.
See, they could fix that by just making the torch go out every once in a while.
Say.
That's an easy fix.
Right.
So I think there's some of this stuff like that there where in this game where you go like, well, you could have just done these 3 things, and I probably would have liked it a lot more.
Sure.
That being said, there's 2 funny stories. One problem with the game and one funny story. Problem with the game is the very beginning of the game when you play it, don't get discouraged because there's one of those scenes where after the cutscenes, now you're into the game. It's that like before we actually start the game, you've got to do this exactly like this.
Ugh.
I hate that motherfucking shit. Like, there's a monster. He's got a guy, whatever. He's got a chainsaw. You can't let him see you because the minute you do, you die.
Right.
And you should probably go this path and hide in this locker. Oh,
Right.
Don't tell me to do that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And then get around the thing and throw the bottle. It's like a conveniently placed bottle.
Right.
Oh, I guess I have to throw this to distract him.
Right.
And then run and hope I make it.
Right.
And then you do, and then the game starts.
Right.
So get past that if you're playing this game. Be like, fuck this game.
Just eat it for 5
Eat
minutes.
it for 5 minutes
Okay.
or 30.
All right.
Like Carlos played it. Like literally putting the controller down. Carlos, calm down.
Right.
Calm down.
It will get better.
It'll get better. And it does. I mean, it opens up. I mean, it's not an open world.
Yeah.
But it definitely opens up where like I can do this 4 or 5 different ways.
I hate it when games do that. I mean, you see it so much, particularly so I do a lot of work in kind of casual and social type stuff in my day job, and it's just the assumption is you have to have tutorial, you have to point arrows at things, you have to tell people now do this, now do that, like robots, and then ta-da, now they're in the game, and it's almost impossible to explain to people who work in that side of the industry that you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Like that actually people are smarter than you think they are and stuff.
Yeah.
But you see it everywhere. You see it in hardcore games all the time. People have been complaining about this shit for 30 years. They're like, why does this game have this whole stupid bit at the start and whatever? But like the same thinking kind of seems to still kind of come around. People sort of go, no, we have to teach people. We'll just give them a sequence and make them do it, and then they will learn, and then they can have fun.
Yeah. Then they're allowed to have fun. But wait, who? I wonder who at the company is saying that. Like, who's saying like, no, we have to do this.
So sometimes it is legitimate. They'll do things like focus tests or user tests, and they'll see like a lot of users, for example, struggle to understand like how a game is supposed to be played. Or like there is that thing of you'll look at, and there's nothing. The most depressing day that you'll ever have when you're working on a game is the day when you're behind the mirror in the focus test room and you watch as people struggle to do the basic thing that you have been assuming any Muppet can actually do, and you realise no.
I love that you mentioned Muppet though. I just saw a Muppet playing the game. Or trying to.
See his big fuzzy hands on the controller. And it's not going.
I have Muppet hands. I can't play this game.
I'm using that. I'm using that in the English sense. Muppet means idiot.
Oh, we don't get.
I like
that.
how I just think of a Muppet with his mouth open. Like,
I did.
Yeah.
I saw
It's like
I saw like a Beaker or like the Swedish Chef.
Well, you should.
Just got weird hands.
You should. Have you ever seen the movie Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels?
Oh yeah.
Right. So you should take a look at that closely and watch this. There's a couple of characters particularly talk about like don't hire any Muppets.
Oh, okay.
What they mean is don't
See, at
hire
some
idiots.
point, our brains just shut off. The
Right.
people in the United States, they're like, I don't get what these words are.
Right. Right.
I'm just gonna wait till something goes explosion. Yeah.
I should translate for you.
Oh, please.
But yeah, no, it's like, you see, it comes from that sort of thinking. I have no doubt. It's like, oh my god, with the focus test, people they didn't know what to do. We got to put a tutorial in. We got to do something.
Yeah.
Right? Half the time it's like, no, you've just got to rethink how the actual mechanics are working or how they're being presented. Or it's usually that you're just not, that it's something subtle, right? Something that if you just worked it out, if you spend a bit of time working it out, actually you get a much better result.
Yeah.
But hey ho.
But with that said, suffer for fucking 5 or 30 minutes. The Evil Within.
5:15 or 35.
But yeah, and I'm. This isn't actually in the news section, but I'll just bring it up right now. I saw some blog or some post about some guy was mad because he enjoyed The Evil Within, but he heard all these, negative comments on podcasts and editors, and he literally made a whole thing about like video game journalists shouldn't even exist. He made a real big blanket statement.
They don't agree with me.
Yeah. But he was coming from a good place actually. He was saying like, I had a good time with this, so like fuck off, because I was actually listening to the Joystick podcast, which I like a lot, but they talked about Evil Within, and for a long time I actually stopped listening to it because it was just negative.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's obviously your opinion, and there's a lot of good points because obviously I have problems with the game, but I don't want to hear negative for 40 minutes or something,
Sure.
So I did stop listening. So I kind of understand that kid's point of view. Like, if you enjoy it, you enjoy it,
Right.
So my last story for Evil Within is, and I put this a video up on the internets because it was just so ridiculous, is I was running from the beginning guy, this bullshit moment, this tutorial moment.
Okay.
And I'd not done what they wanted me to. This is very interesting, actually. I had not done this series of events, right? I kind of skipped a couple. And I was like, fuck off, I'm running. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he's like, oh, I see you. And he's always running after me. Probably earlier than he should have in the tutorial. I have a good sense of doing like the wrong thing in games. So he's running after me, and I get into the room that's supposed to be the last room where the cutscene starts and the game starts.
Right.
And I literally am opening the door, and to me, I saw my character, and you'll see in the video, I'll link it. I get into the room, and I'm in the room, right? His chainsaw comes through the wall and cuts me and kills me. It's almost like, you can't best AI.
Right.
No, we win.
Right.
It came through the fucking wall.
Right.
But just gotta follow the rules, Carlos.
Yeah. Wait, no, he's got to follow the rules. I won! I mean, I can follow the rules, but if I don't, then don't, undo the rules. Because that doesn't happen.
I think it sounds like Chainsaw Guy was in charge. And you broke the rules.
Yeah, so he gets to break the rules back? Anyways.
You've realized that all games are illusions.
Yeah.
I was like, what's happening? You mean this isn't real?
It doesn't actually make 100% sense. Oh no!
Yeah. So, besides...
My worldview!
My worldview is crashing.
And
for some reason, I'm also melting.
Left behind gate.
Left behind gate. Wow, is that a new hashtag?
I'm just gonna, it is now.
Left behind. Hashtag left behind gate. There's a movie, right? A new movie?
Is it a TV show?
Left Behind?
Is it Kirk Cameron?
The HBO show?
What?
It wasn't he in... Never mind.
Okay, you just... We were on the current state of affairs of an entertainment, and then you just went back,
way back
into the past.
Well, no, he did that. Wasn't it called the Left Behind series? His super Christian.
He's a super Christian
Yeah,
dude.
that was called Left Behind.
That's
okay.
right. That's right. Yeah.
You're not
Thank
wrong.
you, guys.
There's a HBO show called The Leftovers. Sorry, which is also about.
Oh, right. That's right.
Yeah.
I actually quite like The Leftovers, and
I've
you know
only seen
why?
the pilot. It seems good though.
That guy is in the Mulholland Drive.
Ooh.
Oh, I like that movie.
And you remember that guy who's like the
Oh,
wannabe director?
That guy.
Yeah, with the glasses.
Yeah. Okay.
He's so good. He's such a good actor. So
Okay.
I say watch that Leftovers. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Left Behind.
Left Behind, maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know.
Less
so. I feel like I saw there's a new Left Behind movie though. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Even
more Left Behind.
Left Behind 2.
No.
Super Left Behind.
No, the sequel to Left Behind has to be called Right Behind.
Oh, jeez. I have not yet installed the rim shot in this podcast.
I'm right behind
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
I'm not going to edit in a rim shot,
Okay.
but there should be one there.
Do I get points on the leaderboard for that?
No, you
There needs to be
you
a
just
leader-
get points for coming back.
There needs to be a leaderboard for punning.
Then we're going to have a leaderboard for everything.
It'll be like Facebook apps.
Actually, I did one of my shows. I did a leaderboard for this video game that was, those Walmart, like you buy like 50 games in one, and it's a
Yes.
controller and it's a whatever.
Right.
And it's not like Sega or Nintendo. It's just like
Like a
Joe
plug and
Schmo's
play?
games. Huh?
Like a plug and play?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of the ones that are like, kind of like bootleggy, you know? So I found this one game called Stop the Train, and I think it actually was made for like PCs or something, or I don't know. But I would have everybody play the game when they came to my show, and then we had a leaderboard for that.
Oh, that's all right. Okay.
So I would like something more like based on skill.
Did you guys get the whole thing of, because there was a thing in the UK a lot where those kinds of, what do you call them, plug and plays?
Mm-hmm.
But they were like Sega Genesis games, all in a Sega Genesis joypad.
Mhm.
that you
Oh,
get.
yeah.
So, okay, so you get, it's like official ones as well as...
Yeah,
Yeah.
then now they have
Yeah.
more official. I think at some point they started like being like, wait, we can make money on this.
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
And Sega needed the money because what do they
Because
do?
Sega is always shambling toward death. Absolutely, yeah.
I don't know how they're still alive.
Nobody does.
Because
Okay.
Sonic is wearing a scarf now.
What?
Well, what?
Yeah, Sonic Boom. He's wearing a scarf, guys. You heard it first here on
Oh.
the Video Game Break podcast.
I don't think you have
No.
because the internet probably knows.
They
that
knew.
You're
first,
right,
yeah.
you're right. I heard it first on the video game.
There you go.
And I maybe heard it first.
And we've heard some things about, like, video game characters. They're new and they have scarves now. Like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. All of a
Okay.
sudden, Pikachu's wearing a scarf.
Okay.
And he's new.
Are scarves in? Is
I don't know.
Is 2014 the year of the scarf?
It's about to be winter, so I guess
Scarfgate?
I have a scarf. No, there's not.
Scarfgate.
By the way, these are all hints towards that we are maybe going to talk about something with the word "gate" in it later. But Scarfgate and what was the other one? Or Left Behind Gate, which doesn't even roll off the tongue.
Beergate?
I want to be a Beergate scandal.
Oh, yeah, there should be a Beergate scandal.
Kinsey, what are you playing besides Destiny? See how I
Besides
preloaded
Destiny.
that? Yeah,
Since I'm not allowed to talk about Destiny anymore on this podcast.
you're not
Which I'm still playing, and I checked for bounties before I got here.
I'm
good.
playing a mystery game called Density, which is very similar.
Well, I've been at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo pretty much since the last podcast.
That's right.
So I've been out of town. I didn't get back till like yesterday.
Yeah.
So I haven't really played anything besides a whole shit ton of arcade games.
So they had a lot of arcade cabinets there, right?
Yeah, they had like a mini arcade all on free play, which was
Nice.
awesome. And there's a barcade in town, so I went there at night. So I got like double dose games, which was a fantastic weekend.
And I'm really, really sad because
I
I'm
know.
supposed to go. Okay, now I'm over that. That's all. But that's super cool. And so you basically got like a lot of old school arcade action in.
Yeah, I played a lot of Tempest, which is one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Crystal Castles, Sunset Riders. Down at the barcade in downtown Portland, they have the 8-player X-Men.
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
Because most of the time you just see the 4-player one. They have the 8-player, and it's ginormous.
Right.
And I played that.
Is it
and
the
was
ground
good
control?
fun. Ground control,
I
yeah.
love that bar.
Okay.
You ever been to Portland much?
I've been to Portland, I'd say, about 5 or 6 times.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
We
I
should
do
go
too.
down and do like a podcast from there.
Yeah.
Podcast
Yeah, we
on
should.
tour.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, asterisks, just by because you said those 3 words, I definitely think we should take this fucking podcast on tour.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Next
Okay.
year,
Especially since I'm at the top of the leaderboard.
You
that probably
are-
means I get to go.
you're like on your own leaderboard, so it's like an asterisk leaderboard.
So I'm like on the special one where I'm competing against myself. So
Yeah.
I'm a winner no matter
yeah,
what.
that's right. Yeah, you win no
It's a
matter what.
single player game,
yeah.
really.
Yeah.
I'm better at those.
Yeah.
I'm not good at PvP.
Well, you don't have to V anybody. Is that dirty? I think it might be dirty.
It's a little dirty.
So you played arcade games, which is great. Crystal Castle, by the way, one of my favorite bands. Have you heard
They broke
them?
up.
What?
I'm pretty sure.
So Crystal
Don't
Castle
quote me on that.
was one of your favorite
Yeah.
bands.
I'm like 75% sure, which isn't a lot, but that I heard it on the radio that they broke up.
Well, they're kind of 2 people, so sometimes
Yeah.
it happens.
I think
but,
they broke up.
Well, they have great albums. They're messed up music, like really weird,
Okay.
glitchy. You can't say chip tunes, but like there's definitely that kind of inspiration.
Right.
If Bentley Bear was in their band, they would have stayed together.
I don't know what that means.
He's the only character in Crystal Castles.
Oh, right. Well, I don't know his name, really. I didn't. This whole time, I never knew that his name.
Oh, his name's Bentley.
I knew he was a bear.
He's a bear.
All right. Bentley Bear, by the way, should be a band.
That's also pretty good.
Try say that faster.
Bentley Bear should probably be a band.
There you go.
I can go faster.
Yeah, I believe
Bentley
you.
Bear should be a band. No, I didn't say that.
That's not real words anymore.
Arcade games. Tadhg, what have you been playing?
So I've been on the road a lot.
You've been abroad.
I've been abroad. I've been back home in Ireland for about nearly a month, pretty much. So I didn't get a lot of chance to play a whole lot of stuff. I've been watching everybody else talking about Shadow of Mordor and me going, that seems really cool, and not being anywhere near a computer even vaguely powerful enough to play.
But you don't have a PS4?
I don't actually at the moment. No.
Oh.
My wife
Or
and
an
I
Xbox
are,
One, I mean.
My wife and I are in the business of doing lots of stuff in our house at the moment, so that's where the money is.
Oh, right.
I have a whole equipment list for winter type of thing.
Well, you know what? If you want to be high up on the leaderboard, you probably might have to get yourself a console.
I think I may have to.
Because then you come back and talk about the games
About
you're
video
playing.
games.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've mostly been playing Angry Birds Transformers.
Wait, that's a thing?
That's a thing.
I knew Angry Birds Star Wars existed.
No, it came out last week, I think, or something like that.
Wait, there's a brand new Angry Birds?
Yeah, and
And
it's
it
not
has to
even
do with
kind of like an
Transformers?
It's totally weird. It's like an endless shooter thing, but there's pigs that are pretending to be Decepticons, and you're like the Autobot birds, the Autobirds, or something like that. And
What?
yeah, it's really odd, actually. It's really, really odd. You sort of it's not like the usual, sort of 2D landscape, flick the bird type of thing. It's more like Optimus Prime bird kind of comes down and he's running along, and you're like tapping things and shooting them, and there's some amount of transforming and flicking stuff, and
So it's interesting.
it's really hard to figure out what the
So it's
hell
a
it is.
different gameplay, though. It's not. It's not that kind of.
It's like the same way that Angry Birds Racing was a totally different game, rather than just.
Wait, there was an Angry Birds Racing?
There's a kart game for Angry Birds. Yeah. You see?
Behind them, Angry Birds.
There you go, man.
And that's kind of okay.
So that's I played a fair bit of that on a plane. I had
Really?
an endless plane ride that just wouldn't stop. I flew from Dublin to Philadelphia, and then I had a 5-hour layover in Philadelphia, and then I had another 6-hour flight from Philadelphia to Seattle, and it was all U.S. Airways. So, by the way, they're rubbish. They're really, really bad. So on the transatlantic flight, there was no I didn't have a screen on the back of
Oh,
the
I hate that.
There
Yeah.
was nothing to watch. There was one really bad TV, so you're just staring at the wall.
Isn't that funny how we're so attuned to that now? Back in the day, it was that I'll just watch up and to the right.
It's what you used
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah,
Right.
And
So,
now you're like, why am not? There's not a screen right in front of me.
but the one I don't understand is, okay, fair enough, whatever. I knew they were a cheapy airline, right? But on the Philadelphia to Seattle flight, they treat it like a domestic flight, right? Which I suppose it is, but it's also a 6-hour plane journey. It's like,
Yeah.
come on, would you not have a television or something? They had nothing at all, and they had snacky food. Would you like biscuits? Or not biscuits, cookies, or cheese, or
Yeah.
things like that. And
Yeah.
you're like, for 6 hours? Are you
Yeah.
kidding me? No, I want
6 hours is a fuck ton of time.
Right?
Yeah, it really is.
You know?
What's weird is that from Philadelphia to Seattle was 6 hours. That seems weird.
Yeah, you kind of go up and around over bits of Canada and then back to it takes forever.
Because I feel like I've gone to New York in 7 or 6.
Right, okay.
Even 6 probably.
Yeah.
I know. So going from
but if you
Seattle
go-
to there's that stream.
If you fly
thing.
eastward, it's shorter.
Shorter.
Yeah, but
Science.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
because science.
Because science. But when you come back, it's still that still seems long.
I don't know, man. What can I say? All I know is I was on a plane, literally going, "I'm going to kill people."
I'll tell you one thing.
And I was playing Angry Birds Transformers.
You don't have
And it works.
like a 3DS or a Vita?
I totally,
There's better options out there.
I know.
I'm just saying.
totally forgot to charge my Vita. So it was misery all around.
Yeah.
And if U.S. Airways only feeds you snacks on a 6-hour flight, there's
Yeah.
probably no plugins.
No
No
plugs,
plugins,
no
no-
nothing.
ugh.
There's barely no. Yeah, it's like being on a cattle car in the 40s. It's terrible.
Oh, so
I usually load up my laptop or something or iPad with videos and just power
Yeah.
charge the shit out of it
Yep.
so that I'm never in trouble.
Well, the
with
funny
that,
thing is, as I was going back to the back of the plane and then forward, it turns out everybody else, apparently there's lots of people who fly US Airways and they know what it's like. So everybody, literally just rows of tablets and laptops and stuff.
they're like,
this
we've been here before.
This weird ambient light through the entire cabin.
Yeah. That's
You know,
funny.
and I had a moment of well, this is the future. And at some point, I had a flash brain realization thing. At some point, Netflix, right, is totally going to get their act together and have an in-flight version. So you'll just get on a plane, you'll connect to the plane's Wi-Fi, you log in with your Netflix account, and you'll just watch.
Yep.
And then they'll just get rid of all their in-flight entertainment. Cause
Yeah.
It's then totally redundant.
So Virgin is one of my favorite airlines ever.
Virgin's great, yeah.
When I worked in San Francisco, a lot of video companies worked with them to do promotions. Revision 3 is one of the big ones, and the company I work for, Mevio.
Yeah.
And basically, they get it. I mean, it's fucking Richard Branson. He's smart and kind of modern in his way he thinks about companies. What's great about them is there's Virgin America and Virgin Atlantic, so you can pull off Ireland. With that airlines. They have the TV, and they have kind of what you're saying. They did a deal with Vision 3 and Discovery Channel, a couple of different places where it's like, here's on-demand specific programming.
Right.
It's not just like cable television, which they also have. But it's like, here's a bunch of shows that we have like digitally. You're not like tuning into them. And when you go around the crazy, satellite, the TV channel farted out. It's like, no, these are digital files that you can watch.
Oh, that's cool.
That's smart of them to do, and that's very similar to what you're saying. Like,
there you go.
Do that kind of programming. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I really like Flying Virgin. This time around, it worked out that it turned into US Airways.
Yeah.
And it was just awful.
So people, public service announcement, don't do that.
Last time I flew anywhere, which I don't fly places, so I'm like not really the person to talk about this.
When you say you don't fly, you mean I do not get on a plane, or?
No, like I don't. I'm a poor kid. Poor kids don't go places.
Okay.
We drive places.
Poor kids. I almost like it ending there first. Poor kids don't go places, and then just a period.
Just stop. Yeah.
No.
I visited my friend in Hawaii a couple years ago, and I flew
And you drove?
Delta. Yeah, I drove to Hawaii because
okay.
I'm a poor kid, so that's how we do things.
Right.
Use the bridge.
Obviously
Yeah.
the land bridge.
The Hawaii bridge.
You guys all know this.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I did Delta only because I bought the like mystery flight where you don't know the time you leave, you don't know your airline, you don't know anything, because it was like the cheapest thing I could do.
Okay.
And Delta was kind of all right. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I have nothing to compare it to.
Yeah.
I think they'll take that as a.
It was kind
They
of.
were kind of all right.
Sure.
They'll take that. Nowadays, that's pretty. Actually,
I
pretty
didn't pay for
glowing review.
food because it was like a 3 or 4 hour plane ride.
Okay.
And I flew on a plane, and it was a plane.
Yeah. Interesting.
I'm gonna go nowhere with this and go get another beer.
I was just watching you die and just letting it happen. As Kinsey gets another beer, I'll talk about a game that you could have used on your flight.
I could have. Okay, carry on.
It's an iPad game, as long as you had that charge, because you had no fucking power.
Because I was not really together. Yep.
Yeah. It's called The Silent Age.
Ooh.
Space episode 1, because I love that kind of new concept of episodes in games. I don't even know how I found it. I do often search just kind of like the newest games on iPad. Like I just kind of search the App Store.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I found it, but you get it for free for a little while to get the atmosphere and feel the game, and if you want to unlock the full game, it's $4.99.
Right.
Totally worth $4.99 in the way this is kind of presented. Very artistic. It's a point-and-click adventure, right? So 2D, like side-scrolling-y kind of adventure. You tap to where you want to go on the iPad. You're basically... The story starts with explaining your character, and the character kind of goes back in time and says, here's what your character was doing in 1968. He was in the army. And then I use a sign holder, and obviously it was kind of getting worse and worse. And now he's a janitor.
Sure.
And so you start the game as a janitor at this big company, and your name's Joe, and you're a janitor. And so basically you walk around, and it's hard to explain until you play it, but the atmosphere and the sound, literally in the beginning of the game it says, use headphones. And I love that they said that, because the minute I put them on,
Right.
I was like, I get it. Like, there's some eerie kind of... It's almost like Office Space in a way, where what's that guy, Milton? Is that Milton? The guy who had the stapler?
Yeah.
He's like, he had to go all to the basement. You're basically that guy. You have an office in the basement. It's not even an office, it's a little teeny room. And it's got like chemical waste in it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, they told us to move that in there. And he's like, I'm fine with it, So he's just kind of accepting his shitty life.
Right.
And the beginning of the game is you go up to the top floor to talk to the big boss man. And he's like, you've been promoted to do more work for no less pay.
Right.
For not more pay. So it's a very interesting kind of thing, but the way the music's so eerie, and it's raining outside, and the rain sound effects, it hits the window, and you just feel like something's going to happen in this game.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in the shittiest position.
Yeah, yeah.
Some weird, interesting thing's going to happen. So it's so funny how it's a study in setup.
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel like so many more games could benefit from this kind of, this is what could happen, just by a feel, by sound effects, by literally like the background music, and this character that you feel bad for immediately.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, I need to keep playing this because I want to know what potentially could happen for him, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm not very far, and I won't spoil any of it, but it's captivating.
Okay, sounds great.
And it's called The Silent Age, episode 1, and I think it's a million times worth $5.
Okay. And is it
Sounds
going to be
like it.
sort of an episodic format game?
Yeah, it sounds like episode 1.
Right.
I'll say one line from the story. He goes, he was meeting the big boss man, and the big boss man had like a red phone and like another phone, like 2 phones.
Yeah.
And the guy goes, you can always tell how successful someone is by how many phones they have on their desk. And then he goes, I don't have a desk.
Right.
And I was like, I feel so sorry for you.
For some reason, I don't know why, it just keeps reminding me of Valiant Hearts, not
Valiant Hearts, yeah.
Damn, that name is so close.
It is
such
close.
different games.
They're like a strategy RPG
Yeah.
versus a war history game.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know why, but
Have you played the Valiant Hearts?
I don't think I have, actually, no.
I think you would like it.
Okay.
It's good.
It is similar to that. It's like the atmosphere of Valiant Hearts is like the music comes in. You know, we talked about last podcast. I think there's a cutscene where the gameplay changes all of a sudden, and the music really informs that change.
Yeah.
Like it's like a fun kind of whimsical, old school soundtrack, and you're like, wow, that sound is making me feel fun and different about the game.
Yeah.
I would say yes.
The other thing that I forgot to mention is, I don't know, have you guys been playing the second season of The Walking Dead?
I haven't even started it.
I haven't played the first season. I loved The Wolf Among Us, though.
You haven't even played The Walking
Have you
Dead?
played The Walking Dead?
Nah.
And
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. This is an official attack.
I played The Wolf Among Us and Sam and Max and...
Okay, alright, fair enough.
It isn't fair enough.
Hey, I didn't play Valiant Heart.
That's different.
Well,
Okay.
See, I got tired of the Walking Dead TV show, so with the... I'm sorry,
You're
everybody.
off the podcast. Whatever leaderboard we have, your own leaderboard, you went down your own leaderboard.
Let me put it this way. I know that there is definitely a sort of a slow bit with the Walking Dead TV show. Somewhere around about the second season, there's that kind of long bit where it's like episode after episode of like farmhouse stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And then
You gotta get past
That's
it.
as far as I watched
and
the
then it starts to
2 first seasons.
it
so
starts
that
to
was
kind of pick up again.
You're looking for that girl the whole time, right?
Right,
You're in that
right.
moment, you're like, what the fuck's her name?
Yeah.
Anyways.
But then it picks up again, and then it goes bonkers.
Really?
And
It goes fucking
has been
bonkers.
It kind of
Are
did the
you-
same
are you-
thing that like
I'm all caught
You're
up.
up. Oh, so you
And I even read a lot of comics, so,
So
I'm
you,
like,
you saw it like last night or this week. It's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
god! Oh my god!
it makes me so anxious though. Like with my anxiety, it's hard to watch. Same the way I felt watching like Dexter. After a while, I like
oh
couldn't.
my goodness. I just thought of an idea.
I couldn't do it anymore.
I get it.
Yeah.
If it gets too much, I'm like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom,
Okay.
and I'll like leave. Like,
And you're by yourself too. Kinsey, I have to go to the bathroom. Okay, Kinsey.
Right.
We should watch it here. I'll be a warm protector. It'll be fine.
all right.
That's how we're gonna do. Because I would love to like re-see. Because when
It's
you
totally cool.
when
Yeah.
you like a show like I like Lost, and we could talk about that in another podcast. But I do stand by all of that. I fucking love that show. And when someone else hasn't seen it, I was like,
what about the ending though?
yeah, we can talk about it.
Okay. All right.
In a minute.
All right.
If someone says like I've never seen it or I stopped at season whatever,
Yeah.
I'll be like I'll rewatch it with you
Right.
because I love seeing through my different eyes.
Right.
I've already know the ending,
Right.
and I want to see where what that was because you put things together. You're like, oh, that makes sense now. You know,
Right. Lost. I mean, not to make it too much of a pun, but Lost very nearly did lose me. Like there was sort of again, it has this long stretch. I think it's sort of the mid-second through to almost the end of the third season.
Yeah, third season's
where
fucked.
It really is just like what is
Relationship-y.
going on?
It gets
people on
too-
and on and just hanging out
Yeah.
and stuff. Not much is happening.
4 picks up, then 5 goes crazy,
and then at the end of
6
the end of
gets
3, it just suddenly goes.
bam.
And you go, wait, what's just
Yeah.
happened? And then you're like, this is really interesting again, and suddenly you're all into it. Like, yeah.
Fun fact: if you're watching Lost, fucking deal with season 3 like the beginning of Evil Within.
Right.
Eat shit for a little while.
Right.
Season 4 will fuck you up, and you'll be like, "This is one of the greatest shows I've watched."
That's right.
I've never watched Lost ever.
Fuck.
Well,
off
my parents
and-
liked it, so I assumed it was bad.
Oh. I can see that. Okay.
No.
They also watch So You Think You Can Dance like
Which-
religiously.
I love that show and don't speak a bad word about it. I will defend that to the ends of the
I
earth.
like you when silly people are on there,
Okay.
like Carlton.
That's the beginning, and then it gets really good though with good
All right.
choreographers. I like modern dance though. Shut up.
You've never seen me dance.
But hold on. You know,
I was like, well, I like dancing.
I know you don't have to like dance well to watch a show about dancing. You're like, listen, I can't watch this. I can't dance. Carlos, you don't understand. I can't. Yeah.
One thing I learned while I was at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo is that people don't like it when I dance.
You're like Elaine. You're like Elaine.
Yeah, I learned that over the weekend, that people like will kind of like leave.
You're all thumbs. Remember her?
I'm a little like that as well. At weddings, I'm terrible. Like, I'm really bad. I just suddenly turn into, like, the dancing dad guy, you know? Like, arms all akimbo, and
Can you
I'm
two?
suddenly, like, doing my, you know, my...
I do a lot of
my best-
arms and a lot
yeah.
of butt.
My best Rick Astley impression type stuff, and if the song... do you know the Scottish band, The Proclaimers?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that song, like, I Would Go 500 Miles comes
Yeah.
on, I literally embarrass my wife, because I just, like, put on my best, like, Scottish impression.
Okay, so you two need to dance, and I need to film it, and I'm gonna put it on YouTube. Just that's it. Like,
Sounds awful.
yeah.
Nah, man, I've got a career to protect.
I'll destroy it. I want to
I'm
talk
sure I
about.
have something to protect, but
I want to talk about Lost, but I feel like we'll go into a crazy tangent.
Right.
But the short version is
I need to beer up anyway. Go on.
okay, and I need a liquor. Let's take a break.
All right.
We'll do a break with a musical interlude, and we'll be right back because we have to make pizza anyhow. So here's a musical interlude that you'll enjoy.
Dun, dun, dun,
No,
dun.
guys.
Musical interlude.
And Gales, I'm gonna put the music in. Stop saying words.
It's the acapella break.
Before we go to the news section, I want to mention that I will be talking about this game Bloodstar. They sent it to me. It seems really cool. It's a shooter game. I don't want to say too much about it because I haven't really played it yet.
Okay.
But the trailer looked amazing. So I just want to tease that I am going to next week on the podcast talk about it and let them know that too because it's super cool.
Okay.
It's called Bloodstar. You can look it for on the YouTubes. You'll find the trailer
On the YouTube.
on the YouTubes. Let's get to news. Doot.
Dude.
So tickets are on sale today for the PlayStation Experience.
I saw that.
You heard of this?
Mm-hmm.
It's in Las Vegas. It's December 6th and 7th. The tickets are on sale today when this podcast goes up, Friday the 24th.
Pretty sure that's the same day as the Winter Beer Festival
Oh.
in Seattle.
That's a
Choices.
I think it is.
conundrum.
It is a conundrum.
Well, it's really interesting. I brought this up because, with the different types of publisher developer events that are starting to happen, it's interesting to see, as also with like the many PAXs that there are.
Yes.
There's so many different events. But Sony's like, we want to get in on this and we'll just do our own because PAX worked and X number of other, events worked. And so why don't we do it?
Yeah.
I can go into it a little bit more, but what are you guys' thoughts on it? Like just in general, of like developers, publishers doing their own events.
So if I was to put my business person hat on for a second, it makes a lot of sense. There's so every year you get like E3, right? Comes around, you get all the big players all do their sort of keynote type things. They do them all at once. It's great for journalists because it means they can they get gorged on new game releases and new technology stuff and all the rest of it all in like this one kind of crazy week. So what they should be doing, and Nintendo's been kind of doing this a lot already, is they should be going, no, okay, you know what, screw it. We're going to find a window in November or in April or in May or whatever, where we're just actually going to do our whole thing ourselves and we're going to then own the press coverage ourselves for like a week or two, just like Apple does.
Yeah.
And then, that the impact of what they'll try to do then is likely to have much more sort of reach than, because it'll hit the press when the press is bored, the rest is therefore likely to talk about it. Whereas if they're trying to get people to pay attention when the press is already excited like a hyperactive child type thing, it's so much harder for them to do that. So,
and then
I think it makes perfect sense.
Then it works with their development cycles too, right? Like they can kind of, I feel like the biggest not complaint, but at least issue that's coming up with so many PAXs is that like, am I, as a developer, am I going to have to show this game off multiple times?
Yeah.
And what kind of new builds do I need to create for this?
That's it.
I feel like if PlayStation just does this, they go like, you know what? We know when our games are coming out and where we're at in our cycle. We're going to show what we want to show off at this thing.
Yeah.
And then maybe we don't have to rush for other PAXs.
Well, except, most of the developers that you're talking about bringing those games to that event, they're going to be like third-party companies. So actually, no, to them, PlayStation Experience is going to be just another event. Like, it's not like it's Sony's making all the games that turn up on
Of
PlayStation.
course, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's for them, it's actually more overhead. But like I say, if they got a better chance of getting some notice and that kind of thing, it probably does make sense to do.
Well, I never thought of course, they obviously don't publish everything, so like they need all those third parties.
Right.
That's interesting. I don't know then what the benefit is because I don't know what the benefit is.
It's press attention. Like they'll run the event, they'll try and get as much press there as possible, they'll try and get as much positive stories, particularly around, say, a lot of the smaller, probably more indie games that you haven't really seen that much of already. Gives them more opportunity to get some visibility. That all helps the story of PlayStation. That means that people want to buy more PlayStations. Round and round and round it goes.
Right. Maybe it's just the idea that they can control that situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they can control the floor space. They can control, how it goes down, the message. Yeah.
I fully expect Microsoft will do the same thing soon enough.
Yeah.
So for the people who don't know,
yes,
this is an actual convention because they've already had selling tickets for like the E3 conferences and stuff in movie theaters. They've already done that before for PlayStation.
Yeah.
But this is like a convention that you can buy a ticket to and go for 2 days.
Right. It's like their Comic-Con.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting is that in the actual trailer for this conference, Suzanne Vega kind of showed up.
Okay.
They had a song, and I was like, "Is that Tom's Diner?"
Right.
Yeah, it is, by the way. But you're right. It is it's like here's a thing you can go to, Joe Schmo.
Sure.
We want you to go to it and see our games.
Right.
I like games.
Why
like
not?
PlayStation.
Yeah, why not? All right, so we were all on board then.
Okay.
We're like, go to it.
I wish I had money/vacation time.
You need to become a...
We get it, you're poor. It's like a continuous thread. Listen, Carlos, I can't go on an airplane. Listen, Carlos, I can't go to PlayStation.
I can't!
I know! If you want to send money for Kinsey to go and do things... Please email
555. Please give KinseyMoney.com.
Please email this phone number. That won't work. So
555.
Yeah. This is good for Kinsey. This is a nice segue. So Kinsey is a big fan of the, and I'm talking about her in the third person. She's a big fan of the Dragon Age.
Okay.
I don't not so much care for it, even though she gave me the game to...
I left it at your house in precarious places.
Yeah. She's like, he'll probably play this.
He'll find this.
And I did find it and played it.
When you say various places, like it was kind of sitting on the toilet seat.
And in my bed. I was like, I'm going to go to bed, and now here's Dragon Age.
It's in your breakfast cereal.
It was in my cereal, weirdly enough.
You pop your toaster to put a Pop-Tart in, and there it is.
Pops up Dragon Age.
Right.
Melted and burnt.
Right. With Dragon's
That'd be the
fire.
worst.
With
Dragon's fire. I'm like, this is super cool, and now I'll never play it. Basically,
it burns.
The new Dragon Age Inquisition, I found this on Kotaku. It says the sex stuff in it has some really ridiculous statements.
Yes.
And here's one of the statements I'll read for you. There's some character saying this in the game. In quotes, I will bring myself sexual pleasure later, while thinking about this with great respect. What in the hell? What scene is that? And that isn't sexy at all, by the way.
Video games are solely the worst form of writing in the history of the world.
It gets worse.
Okay.
In quotes, the way your tits bounce when I pin your arms and take you on the side of the bed. Now, part of that was the way that I just did the delivery of it. But even if you don't do that weird delivery, still sounds retarded.
I don't like the word tits.
Special.
Listeners think you're wearing a clown nose when you're saying that.
I don't like the word tits.
Oh, really?
No.
I think I might. What would you prefer, lady?
I don't know.
Breastises?
No. I don't know what's wrong with good old-fashioned boobs, because I like...
Oh, boobs are okay.
That's a good word. I like that word better.
Boobs are good.
Boobs is a fun word.
I don't really like the word tits. I can't really explain why. Maybe because it seems slightly demeaning.
My wife calls them the girls.
The girls.
I like that.
That personalizes them.
I think so.
Which, by the way, means they're different, which generally they are.
They have character.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The girls.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely fabulous. You know?
I don't think I have a problem with tits. Oh, wait.
You don't have them.
I don't. But I think when I just said it, I might have a problem with it.
You feel like a creepy
I did
old
feel
man,
kind of
don't you?
dirty. Yeah. I was like, I don't have a problem with tits. I think if you say it that way, it sounds terrible.
Oh, one thing I learned about Portland.
Please.
Yes.
They have better strip clubs than most places.
Everybody tells me that.
Portland has all the strip clubs.
Yeah.
So I'm told. Yeah.
All of them? Like,
yeah, just all of them.
Yeah.
They didn't pull my drink at 2.
Yeah.
They asked me if I wanted another. Not naming names of strip clubs.
And side note, by the way, that could happen in a bar. Like,
not any bar in Washington.
No.
Right, but I mean, like, that's not the reason it should be like,
And
it was a good bar.
From the outside, it looked like the shittiest, seediest strip club ever. And we went in, and I was like, this is pretty alright.
Okay.
They got a pinball machine.
Okay. Right.
And, like, it was
Fun fact?
kind of awesome.
Literally all my friends in Portland at some point or another tell me like how Portland's got all this like great food and it's got all this great culture and it's got a great band scene and all that. Oh, and also it has the highest per capita number of strip clubs of any city in the United States.
There's a strip club, apparently, which I still need to go to. Not that I frequent strip clubs, but, like, it's a strip club, number one. But it's also kind of a dive bar that has, like, $10 steaks.
Ooh.
That are really good steaks, because apparently this is all hearsay, so this might not be true.
Okay.
The guy who owns the strip club also owns a cattle ranch.
Ah, okay.
So you get like choice steaks for $10
while sitting
at a strip club.
In the strip club.
They also have a salad bar, which I would not recommend.
No.
Open air food at a strip club.
I don't like salad bars anyway.
I'm not a fan of heat lamp food. Nope.
No. Anything where that people can sort of be pawing or sneezing on.
Nope.
No,
not a fan.
No.
But
I don't like dressing at the best of times.
But I kind of want to go to this place.
Okay. It does sound pretty quirky.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good steak. I love good steak.
I do too. I've been on the hunt for a good steak for a while because that was like my talk. The whole time I was in Portland, everyone I was with, I'm like, I'm going to go eat a good steak.
Right.
But then every night I got too drunk and I don't want to have a good steak when I'm drunk.
Right.
So I didn't do it. And then I finally had an all right steak yesterday.
Okay. So one of my experiences, going back to Ireland is always sort of a magical thing to do. It's great to see all my old friends and my family and all that sort of stuff. But there's a lot of things that you sort of get reintroduced to when you do, and things that you don't quite remember about home. That suddenly you're there and you're like, oh yeah, it's totally like this. So one of the things is Dublin is actually a pretty small city. It's smaller than Seattle, I think, but it has the worst traffic in Western Europe because it has the worst roads and it has the worst bus service. There's lots of buses, but they're very inefficient in the way that they kind of run and stuff. But the other one is Irish food is pretty weird. So my friend Alan and I went on a kind of a weekend trip to Galway, which is on the west coast and is a beautiful city, sort of set among like rolling mountains, hills, and Atlantic weather and all that. It's like literally a magical place. Yeah, you got to go. If you ever find yourself in Ireland, go to Galway. You got to go to Galway. It's totally worth it. But we did go into this pub for food, and I was in the mood it was an oyster festival weekend, so they had like oysters everywhere, so you get like 6 oysters and some beers and stuff, and I had a real hankering for a steak. And so out comes this steak, and it is served with some French fries, some mashed potatoes. You've seen this on
I
Facebook.
saw this post, yeah.
Some French fries, some mashed potatoes, and a croquette, all also on a bed of more mashed potatoes. It was literally
a lot of starch.
Yeah.
For three kinds of potato. Now, there's a joke about the Irish and potatoes and stuff, but it's rare that you actually run into like we're actually just totally going to play up to it.
It's like, no, there's a lot of potatoes here.
And, the criminal part of it is like you get all this potato and the steak was bad. It
no!
It wasn't nice at all. It was overdone. It was like in Ireland you can ask for rare as much as you want, but you'll get well done or medium rare at best, kind of all the time.
I'm the person who I either ask for rare or medium rare here.
Yeah.
But if it's medium, I'll eat it and I'll be grumpy about it.
Okay.
If it's past medium,
Right.
I'll probably be the
Send it
bitch
back.
who sends
Yeah,
it back.
yeah.
Because, like, I can't handle it. And,
Yeah.
like, the steak I had, the steak was really good.
Yeah.
But it came with fries.
Oh, okay.
And I was just like, all right, that's all right. But I way prefer, like, baked potato, mashed potatoes.
Mashed potatoes.
I love a good salad.
Yeah.
I love a really good salad with steak, actually.
I would have preferred salad. Like, if I had a choice of salad or soup,
Or,
I would have taken that over fries.
Yeah. So the
good thing the steak was good.
I had another one then. The following weekend, I went to Bristol in the UK. My wife was over. My wife's English, and she comes from Bristol, and so I was over to see her and stuff because it was like it was a long trip. We hadn't seen each other for weeks and stuff like that. And similarly, I went to this other place to get a steak, and I had the other really bad steak that I had while I was in the
Oh.
but this one was totally different. It was really no like weird 4 potato presentation thing. It was actually very nice. It came in there was a beautiful starter and stuff like that. But it was really bland. Like it was totally bland. Like, and it was weird because it came with like a sort of a port and Stilton butter, which is gorgeous. But the steak is like I cut in and it was just like there was nothing. There was no noticeable flavor at all. And I was like, this is in my head. I'm not thinking. And I went through a bit more, and eventually I called the waiter over, going like, "There's something wrong with this. It's just got no flavor." I was like, "It's as though like it hasn't been like seasoned at all."
At all,
right?
Anything's done with it.
And he says it hasn't. Like,
all right.
And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "In Bristol, apparently the locals they had like proper steaks before, and the locals all used to complain that they found them too salty."
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Well, then put some goddamn pepper on it.
Right? Do you know what I mean?
Or at least leave it out. Like
Yeah. No, but it was so weird. Like, but literally, like, it was beautiful piece of meat, but it just tasted of like protein. So, sad. Yeah.
Well, see, I'm all kinds of white trash, and I really like my steak with ketchup.
Oh.
And people tend to get very upset with me.
I feel like wouldn't white trash also do like the A1 sauce though, right? That's like a staple.
Steak sauce is good, yeah.
But I mean, like, I don't know. I'm a real big fan of steak and ketchup, and I'll try to pretend it's for my fries.
Sure.
Because everyone makes fun of me.
Like, yeah.
So we're gonna
Interesting.
We were talking about food so much that we're hungry, people. So pizza's happening, so you're gonna hear us chewing. That's a no-no in the podcast world, but whatever. So guess what, guys? They're re-releasing San Andreas.
This podcast brought to you by Paul Newman Pizzas.
Paul Newman's Thin and Crispy. Please sponsor us. We would love that.
Indeed.
San Andreas, I would kill for a Vice City re-release.
Wait.
That's what I want.
Haven't they re-released that like a few times now?
I don't know if they have.
It came out on the Amazon Kindle Fire. Yeah, not the Kindle Fire. You know the Kindle Fire TV thing?
Yeah.
Right, the Fire TV. Sorry, it came out on that about.
Maybe that was if that was recent. That maybe that was a beginning of this.
And Vice City.
Vice City, yeah.
Yeah.
But San Andreas, it's the one GTA with the most kind of RPG-ish kind of feel to it, where you literally level up your character.
Yeah. San Andreas is not my favorite.
It's not my favorite either.
No.
But it's happening, and it was just I put it on the list because I was like, I'm tired of re-releases. Like, let's spend some of that money, which there's development costs behind that, on fucking paying an indie developer to release his amazing fucking thing or her amazing thing.
No, that doesn't work.
No,
I'm
just
tired
saying.
of the wrong re-releases. Is what
So
I'm
let me
of.
put it this way. So there's two perspectives here. There's people like yourselves and myself who are, we know a thing or two about games.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, it all just looks like so much kind of rehashing. Fair enough. It's like the Beatles re-releasing, I don't know, platinum editions, and that's all they do or something like that, like till the end of time, right? But at the same time, for a company like Take-Two, who like really needs the money, it's absolutely the thing that they should do, right? Of course they should take the game that they've already spent millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars and like infinite man hours and all that kind of stuff, and they should put that game wherever they can. It's cheap for them, and it means that they get a lot more money, which they can then plow into making GTA 6.
But what do you think the cost is per how much to actually sell? Will that work out for them? You know what I mean? Like, I know for a fact I'm so sick as a person who plays a lot of games. Mm-hmm. I'm so sick of the re-releases, especially with this new kind of generation we've dealt with where Last of Us is coming out, GTA 5 is recently coming out again. Mm-hmm. I'm quite over that. And so I'm wondering what
Well, no, see, those are different though. I think that's not the same. That's not the same situation at all. So, and the reason I say that is The Last of Us and GTA 5 both came out around about the time when console sales, like PS3 and whatever, were in steep decline, because a lot of players were kind of waiting for PS4. They're waiting for the next thing, and so it makes economic sense for those guys to have thought like way ahead of time to go, right, so we're going to have it on PS3 because that's the machine it's going to be current, but we're going to put it on PS4 as well because we're going to pick up everybody else who didn't have a PS3 anymore.
It was at the cusp.
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's one thing. But like re-releasing a 10-year-old game is a very different business, and you know you don't do it in the same way. You work with like a white label company usually. It's not even the original guys who kind of made it. They'll just have like a wrapper tech. They'll take the original game, pretty much put it in, put it out. It's very cheap for them to do.
I guess what the real answer is that so me, let's just take me as an example. I happen to be in this specific portion of the gaming moment where that just happened. So the cusp happened. You know, we're gonna re-release GTA 5 and Last of Us, and then now I'm seeing they're gonna release GTA San Andreas. It might make sense again on these kind of business levels. For me as a gamer, I'm like, no, I want a new game. You know, it's just kind of a more of the same. And I go, well, no, I don't want to have something else I've purchased. And by the way, let's be honest here, especially with other people who have less money, like maybe some poor people like Kinsey. It's fucking money, man. I spent $60 on Evil Within, and I make a salary. And I was like, did I really need to buy that?
Yeah.
Like, I have to make a good salary.
Right.
But I question my purchase.
Right.
Now you have less money than me, who has a salary, which is a bigger number than lots of people.
Right. Then
you're going to be like, well, no, fuck you, motherfucker. I bought that for $60 when it was San Andreas, the game.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's in my head. It resonates with me like, okay, I understand money is not forever. I have a limited amount that I can spend this month on games. Like, I just am frustrated with that so many re-releases.
For me, it's just like that kind of... I don't mean to sound sort of callous or whatever, but that mentality for me is it's quite inverted. Like, you chose to, at a time when that thing was like culturally hot or whatever, you chose to sort of buy into it because it was the hot thing, right? Why does that mean that people who come along 5 years later shouldn't be able to get at it anymore?
They can. And so I don't want to be like, you shouldn't be able to have the experience.
Right. And then, but then the second part of it is, why does that mean that the company that made that game shouldn't try and... This is very businessy, but why should they not maximize whatever they can get out of that?
That's true.
It's not at your expense that's happening. Like, it's not like, oh my god, their developers are working on this when they could be working on something else. It's not like that. Those good developers who made that game that you like, they're doing the next thing. Mm-hmm. But it's these second string guys who produce these cheap ass kind of versions of the games who help to bring a lot of money back into the company, which helps pay for the first ones.
Right.
So why wouldn't you support it?
I think that I will accept that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what you just said, as long as it's not to the detriment of making new games. That's all. I guess that's all I'm saying. You know, and I feel like that has happened in the past.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we're going to spend a bunch of money to high res this motherfucker, and I'm like, well, I'd like a new game. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Final Fantasy X HD. I'm like, you kind of picked the easiest Final Fantasy to re-release in HD when there are better Final Fantasies that you could have re-released.
Right.
You know, Final Fantasy IX. I mean, if someone from Square is listening,
right.
That's my first choice.
That might actually just be the real reason you brought that up. Like, I'm just saying that you guys should re-release
because Final Fantasy X compared to Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9 is not the same. And if you're going to re-release something in HD, why pick the one that's on the downturn of it?
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, good. No, it's because it was also with 10 too. Great.
Well, maybe it's because like the tech that version of the game was based on was close enough that it was more easily adaptable. A lot of the earlier games, for example, that came out on PlayStation 1 and stuff, there's a real difficulty when it comes to porting a lot of them because the tech that they were developed for is so custom that in fact a lot of people who worked on those games, they don't have the expertise in them anymore. So a game that I'm a huge fan of is Wipeout 2097, which is the second Wipeout game.
Yeah.
I really like Wipeout 2097, or it's called XL, I think, in some territories as well. I really like it. You can't get good ports of it for love nor money anywhere. Like it's one of the few games that's kind of come from the PlayStation era that just doesn't seem to translate well when they're like, well, we're going to release our whole new catalog on like what's
PlayStation Now.
Right. 2097 is going to be one of those problem games that it's actually way more work for them to bring across, and so they may not. And why? Because it just happened to be developed in a particularly kind of custom code sort of way, and there's basically nobody knows how it works. And so like sometimes that's why it's like your Final Fantasy VII is the one that's the big motherload one version of Final Fantasy. That's the one that everybody knows, and they should probably be re-releasing that to the end of time. But it might be that it's actually not that compatible, right? Or that it's actually way harder to get it to work with new systems than say 10. 10 might actually be much more next gen friendly, right?
I'm going to say right now on record that the statement you made pushed you up in the leaderboards.
Wisdom.
It gave me a little bit of background information. That's why I got the Tadhg Kelly in here. Mm-hmm. You got a spot up.
Okay.
Which I don't know if that's the type.
I'll take that. 5 points. All right.
Yeah.
5 points for Gryffindor.
I don't have a lot of wisdom, so I'm glad I'm in my own leaderboard.
We get it, you're poor. Well, that just translated to that.
Good thing you don't have to buy wisdom.
Hey, a lot of people listening to the podcast might be poor. And by the way, I'm not like doing well, all right? We all got poverty. Here's another thing on the news. This is not really that much of a news, but 16 minutes of gameplay for Quantum Break, like we were mentioning earlier. We talked about Alan Wake. Did we mention Alan Wake on the podcast?
No, we were talking off air.
Oh, that's right. Off air, you didn't hear. We were talking about Alan Wake, which is a great game. Mm-hmm. Those developers are working on a game called Quantum Break, which you probably heard about. Xbox One.
It's a TV show.
/ TV show. TV show within the game.
Okay.
Episodic.
Right.
Quantum Break, Xbox One exclusive.
God damn it!
God damn it's right, because that's the game where I'm like, now I need an Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can't. Oh.
I know.
It's gonna happen eventually. It always happens eventually. Like
Yeah, they always get us.
I
Watch,
get it.
Watch this 16 minutes of video. I'll put the link in the show notes. It's, the lighting's amazing. It looks incredible. The cutscenes to transitioning into gameplay is perfect.
Oh, nice.
Like, I love that kind of like, okay, obviously this isn't full-on gameplay, but it doesn't feel like it changes anything. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, because we're all old enough probably, you watch the Nintendo games, or like Ninja Gaiden or something like that, you have that cutscene, it's like a totally different little 2D anime thing. Yeah. And now I'm playing the game, which is not like that at all. Nowadays, it's like, no, I don't know where the cutscene starts or ends and the gameplay starts, Mm-hmm. So this does a really good job of that. Watch the video. It's great to see kind of the gameplay full on in action, 16 minutes of it.
Okay.
And it's like, fuck, I need an Xbox One.
There's always going to be that system seller for somebody. And from what I'm hearing is that Bayonetta 2 might be the one for the Wii U. I hear a lot of positive talk about.
So do I.
Yeah. I hear that too. Except for we'll get into the topic properly later. But there's a whole thing about Polygon's review of it.
I don't know about that review.
Polygon marked it down for like sexism, basically.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I sort of don't disagree or agree.
Well,
it's like it happened.
Yeah. I already own a Wii U, so.
Sure.
I think to that point, and this has come up in a lot of different websites and stuff, is that what's interesting about Bayonetta, and the original was great, and I haven't played 2 yet, but is that over-sexualized weirdo who you're playing as isn't even real or kind of sexualized in a sexy way. It's like, that's an alien. Because like the legs on that person is not real.
And she's got guns on her shoes.
It's ridiculous.
Guns on her shoes.
It's ridiculous anime type stuff.
Yeah, it's like so crazy that I'm not like, man, she's hot.
And she's got nerd glasses.
Which is great. Which you didn't see on the podcast, but Kinsey just winked.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, I feel like she's like almost like a monstery kind of person.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's different that way. Or I feel like, man, this person shouldn't even exist in real life. So I can't be like, I relate to that attractive female.
Right,
Sure.
She
has a low-cut dress on or something. Like, it's not like that. It's like, who is this weird monster gun shoe person?
I wish I was a gun shoe person.
What We can get
I
you
thought
some.
you were.
I don't even like guns, but if I had them, they would be on my heels.
On your heels, absolutely. Yeah.
As a lady, what do you think of the Bayonetta?
Well, okay. Real talk.
Ooh.
I've never played Bayonetta. I was hoping to play it on... Because the Bayonetta 2 comes with Bayonetta 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just going to buy it and play them both on the Wii U.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I kind of agree in that sense that she's kind of this, like, out-of-this-world character. You know, she's not Lara Croft. She's not someone I can...
Sure.
I can actually do what she does. I can't do it.
Sure.
You know, so I do kind of agree with you guys in that way.
So it's I've played some of Bayonetta. It's probably the most Japanese game that you can possibly play. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
Right. Like it is so just frenetic and frantic and all of those other words that it's part of the joy of it, I suppose, is just the way that it kind of washes over you and you don't really have a goddamn clue what's going on, but it kind of goes, right, shooting time, and you're shooting stuff. And
but sometimes that's okay.
Yeah. And it has that just sort of thrills and spills sort of character. For me, I must admit, it felt very like 2 hours into it, and I was done with it. Like, I was like, this is quite bonkers. But it's kind of bonkers all the time.
I kind of like bonkers.
It gets a bit monotone. No, but you see, it's like if there's no variation, it just gets a bit like, okay, this is I'm done.
All right.
Yeah, what's that game that didn't work because of gameplay, and that's a table. That's a plate that moved around.
It's an actual earthquake.
We had an earthquake. Oniyasha or whatever, is that right? No. Oni, the zombie girls are in bikinis.
Whatever. Bikini Samurai.
Bikini Samurai
no,
girls.
See, I feel like this is different
than
that.
It is.
Because that game was terrible. I spit everywhere.
Right, you just spit on the mic, yeah. You're right, because the gameplay...
Oni Binyat, whatever.
Whatever it is.
I get another beer. I don't care.
The
game was bad.
The game was bad, the gameplay was bad, and then it was over-sexualized, and they weren't weird creatures like Bayonetta. They were like just a girl with like a low-cut thing, like fighting zombies.
Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball.
Yes.
Right. That was a good volleyball simulator.
Although that was a good volleyball simulator. She's right.
Okay.
I mean, it wasn't bad.
I mean, volleyball is not exactly a complex game to make.
Isn't it, though? I don't know. Maybe it is.
No, not really.
Let's get into our big topic. Which, by the way, is fun because last night... Was it last night?
Cloud gaming, right? No, wait. What's the other thing? Oh, yeah.
Lost?
Oh. Yeah.
No,
the other thing.
What's the other thing?
Gate?
Oh, yeah, GamerGate. So I think it was last night or the night before, we both had some drinks in us, Tadhg and I, and we were just Facebook IMing, and I was like, fuck this stupid GamerGate, blah, I'm so mad.
Drunk Facebook messaging is like,
yeah.
It's some dangerous territory, you guys.
Because it's funny because you sounded drunk when you just said messaging, because I don't think that's the word.
I was on the Facebook.
I was on messaging.
I'm a little bit sad I was not included in this conversation.
Well, we're going to you can't even do group Facebook IM, can you?
Yeah, because my mom figured it out before I did. And she was like, we can group family talk. And I was like, oh, no.
Because Facebook is for your family now.
Well, we were talking about, randomly, I don't know how it just came up, and I was saying something about it, and Tadhg's like, well, we should talk about it on the podcast. I'm like, yeah, why not? Because the last episode, I talked about it for a second, and near the end, I started going, I'm going to just say some words. And Kinsey's like, disapproving look. No, Carlos. But then a lot of stuff happened, which we'll talk about a little bit with Felicia Day and other things. And as it started coming out, all this new stuff that happened with it, it's the idea that people were afraid bothered me. Right? So even within our own little 3 people podcast, I was like, no, we can't be afraid about fucking 14-year-old whoever these guys are. We have to talk about it. So we can allow that. It's almost like the terrorist win or whatever, we can't let that be a thing while we don't talk about something. So the long and the short, I'll make one quick statement and then we can have this open for discussion. In general, recently Felicia Day came out talking about she felt nervous for the first time among her fans, which I thought was terrible because she is one of the greatest and most heartfelt human beings and doing really great nerd work for us nerds. To have her be really afraid about talking to people that play games as a general kind of like a shroud around her vision is terrible. So we need to just basically squash this stuff, and however we can do that, whether it's talking about it right now or whether it's about doing other things, which I'm adamant about doing that are more forceful. I basically took a stand and immediately tweeted all the founders of Twitter and said, because here's where I think the problem lies. If you have anybody who's using your medium or your platform or your company and they're doing something that threatens other people / harassment, which is, there's laws about that, then you have to take them to task and put them into the proper authorities. Like, you have all the information about this person or persons. You have where they live, all their information. So give that to the proper authorities and say, this person just said they're going to rape or kill somebody. Or, in the case of what happened in this fucking thing, someone said they're going to fucking do a school shooting. So fuck those motherfuckers and go and find out who they are. But to me, the biggest thing is it's on Twitter. If the medium was anywhere else, on a blog and Discuss, or on a website at Amazon, customer reviews, like wherever it lives, that's where you deal with that issue. Like that's it. So for me, that's all I think that should happen. I think that if it's a small group of people, which it seems like it is, who are doing terrible things, they have that in YouTube comments and 4chan. Like, things happen shitty. But when it gets to death threats and rape threats and weird ass shit and exposing people's information, you find out which forum they're using and you persecute them. Like, I think that just has to happen.
I mean, there are. I mean, now let me be very, very, very clear on this. So I've written a whole bunch of blog articles across Gamasutra and TechCrunch and my own site all around GamerGate, and in no uncertain terms, I find myself to be very, very anti the whole thing. Like, really very strong, and I have been more or less from the off. I'm one of the first people who identified it as having very similar way of carrying on, if you like, or pattern of conduct as like the Tea Party movement in the US of a few years ago, where it's totally disingenuous, where there's so much to do with people essentially being kind of on the make and seeing this sort of energy that they might be able to tap into. And so in that instance, for example, there's a whole bunch of YouTubers that I've now become aware of who I think are blatantly essentially subscriber hunting and propagating the whole thing largely to be popular. So that's kind of one. The second thing is that it's tapping into a very real energy, but that energy I feel is really badly misplaced. Like that, okay, fine. Let's say, for example, take for 2 minutes, let's say that there are questions of how journalists conduct themselves within the games industry. Of course there are. Nobody's perfect, right?
It's every industry, though.
Absolutely right. But if that's the case, then shouldn't your targets be, let's say, all the big AAA game publishers and AAA game like websites, the people who cover like the blockbuster equivalent games, because there's a whole lot of shady bullshit goes on around how those games get coverage, and it's out in the open. Everybody knows it. Why on earth would you spend half a second worrying about what goes on in the indie space, right? Because and a huge amount of what's been happening in GamerGate and around GamerGate has targeted essentially defenseless indies, people who are even poorer than Kinsey. No thanks. But no, I mean it.
Bring
like,
it back.
guys who are like trying to make games, and they're making it on a shoestring, and sometimes they're getting funded on like Patreon, because that's basically the only way they can afford to eat, right? And still go on and do the thing. And maybe you don't like their games. I mean, a lot of people sort of maybe don't like Depression Quest. Okay, I mean, that's fine.
That's fine. Yeah.
That's totally fine, right? But to sort of then turn this into like a campaign of trying to single those people out, and to claim that you're not trying to single them out based on the fact that they're women, blah, 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 but it's all to do with ethics or something, but yet somehow your ethical campaign seems to always target the most vulnerable. Like, it's just completely mad. And again, it's very similar to how that sort of Tea Party dynamic kind of worked. Like, that it found a lot of like very low-hanging fruit targets to sort of blame for everything, right? To sort of say, they're the problem, they're the symbol, they're the canary in the coal mine or whatever. But like the damage that it's caused, and the damage that it causes to so many of my I'm friends with quite a lot of the indie gamers. I know Zoe Quinn a little bit.
Yeah, we know Samantha and
Samantha Kalman, right, and stuff like that, right? Like, and they're all really good, really earnest, genuine people, right? Sure, they have a bit of a scene, of course they do. Like, they hang out and get drunk with one another. That's what a scene is. But
sounds like my kind of women,
right?
I know, it sounds fun.
It's not just women, and guys too. Like, that it's kind of everybody, right? Why are you spending, like, what is this whole thing about? And so, for me, I got over, I've been in and out of feeling very angry about the whole thing, and feeling very defensive on behalf of certain friends of mine, for example, and stuff like that. And then, from there, I've got into trying to tease out, well, what the hell is it actually sort of about, right? And a lot of people talk about culture war, a lot of people focus on the female game maker versus, like, traditional, like, whatever kind of part of it, and that's all very fair. There's actually a really good comic going around on the web the last couple of days, somebody who did a sort of Victorian, I don't know if you've seen this, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's like a Victorian era comic of this woman who's, like, invented Monopoly, and she's trying to go to, like, a games fair, and everybody's like, hello young lady, my lass, what have you got there? Oh, you have a game. Oh, well, who is the man who invented it? Oh. And she ends up, like, run out of town, like, by this crowd of guys going, you have completely not understand the issues of 9 pins and stuff. It's really, really, it's very funny. It's also super observant.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
And so, like, that's a huge part of it. But in a sense, the even larger part of it for me is that it's actually about okay, what's a gamer to you? When I say what's a gamer, what do you
I hate that term.
No, but it's around. When you hear the word, what does it sort of conjure?
Someone who plays games more than someone else who doesn't play games. Okay. Yeah.
And so, like, enthusiast is the word you're looking for, right?
That'd be good.
Fine. But there's a lot of people out there, like, there's a YouTuber named Boogie2898 or 2988 who has got, like, 2 million followers and all this kind of stuff. And he's one of these guys who advocates that gamer means, like, everyone, right? Everybody plays games. Your mom playing Angry Birds on her iPhone, she's a gamer. Like, that's how guys like that sort of see it. Fine, but if that's the sense, then gamer means it's the same as listener or reader or viewer. It means, like, it's an activity.
Someone who likes entertainment. How about that?
But at the same time, within gaming culture, you have people who then say, no, but gamer means something kind of more than that, like that it has sort of a cultural kind of connotation. And that, for me, I think the root of GamerGate is all to do with how those two ideas struggle with one another.
But gaming's not like an elite club.
No, but actually, this is my point. For some people it is, and for some people it isn't. And they're all using the same language.
It's true, but I need to chime in here because I've been biting my tongue. Fuck those people. And I've said it, and you can please attack me. Because here's the thing. I'm one of you people, so I'm not actually, like, going against you by saying this. But having what Kinsey just said, a club is bullshit. All of us nerds, people who consider themselves nerds, who went to games and looked to fantasy and looked to Lord of the Rings and video games for an escape, for fucking someone who understood who the fuck we were not making a club. We were like, oh my goodness, someone else understands me, because all the clubs at school or wherever don't get me. You know what I mean? So someone to make a club, and this happened with the Giant Bomb stuff, it happened with a lot of different things, not any reason, and Giant Bomb didn't do anything, but, like, these kind of concepts of, like, boys clubs and cliques, and what this in my heart, the heart of what this is a cliquey kind of certain version of a male on the internet, right? All that stuff is such bullshit, because it's exactly the opposite of what I was and fought for and wanted to love about video games. You know, video games was my way to get out of this clique system. So if anybody out there right now listening is doing this type of behavior, I feel like what you're doing is you're fucking it up, because you're basically destroying this thing that we went towards. We went towards getting away from a clique.
Right.
And if you create this clique that doesn't even really exist, and this is how games should be made, and this is how games journalism should be done, and all this is how.
Right.
Listen to what you're saying, because you fucked up, because that's exactly what you didn't want to have happened.
Right. Yeah, I mean, going from this thing from clicks, I mean, like, most of us, I think, were gamers forever-ish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Especially in my case.
Yeah, and it's like, when I was trading Pokemon on the bus, nobody wanted to be my friend.
Right.
And then when I found that person who did, like, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And the more people that we bring on to this is awesome.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the weird part is, because I've spent a lot of time, I've talked to a lot of GamerGaters, or people who sort of would say they support the movement and all that kind of stuff. They would say the exact same thing. But it's like their sense of, like, that gaming is supposed to be this, like, inclusive thing that's not exclusionary. At the same time, they act like a very exclusionary sort of movement that's insisting on a certain sort of standard. And that sort of they call it ethics in journalism. But what they actually, if you really dig down and talk to them about it, what they actually tend to mean is it's a particular view of how the game's press should conduct itself, and therefore what games should be actually sort of like. So, I mean, a good example is, let's talk about Bayonetta for just a moment, right? I mentioned the Polygon review earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people in the GamerGate movement wrote letters of complaint and whatever to Polygon, claiming that it wasn't fair to Bayonetta, which is a very well engineered game, that it'd be marked down because of, like, content issues, right? That's a standard thing. It's like you would say, you're talking about, say, Destiny, or you're talking about Evil Within or whatever. Like, there's a mechanical component to when we talk about how games feel, whether they're good, whether they're bad. Like, we do tend to have a sort of a semi. It's a little bit like, you know, when you watch do you ever watch Top Gear?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right, you know, when they're talking about different cars, they're like, this one feels good, this one doesn't feel so good, this one has good engine power, this one has great torque, this one's a bit weird, this one has a funny smell, but it's actually a good car, like all that sort of, like, that there's that sort of engineered component to it, right? We call it gameplay. And then on the flip side, there's the issue of, but what about the content itself? And the traditional view of games, the ones that we've actually all grown up with, is that the content is secondary. That it may certainly create a lot of issues in your mind, it may certainly ask a lot of questions or make you feel a certain way, or kind of whatever, but we unconsciously tend to default and think mechanics first, content second, and therefore reviews should focus on mechanical quality first, then content, maybe you dock half a point or something. But that it's quote unquote not fair to dock a game, say, 2 points on the basis of the fact that its characters are sort of a bit weird or creepy or kind of whatever. With odd, maybe very egregious exceptions. Things like Postal, fine. Everybody's like, fuck that game, right? Because those guys are just fucking creeps. But, like, anything that's not that, like, you know, we tend to default the other way. And the issue is, for a lot of the new games, like Depression Quest, they don't fit on that scale. They don't work in that kind of framework. They're not that part of that, to put on my wanky game design hat, they're not part of that paradigm, right? So Depression Quest is not a mechanically interesting game. It's a choose your own adventure, right? It's click, 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 right? It's not, to even sort of talk about it in terms of gameplay doesn't really make any sense anymore, right? It's like it's not classic in that sort of sense. Does that mean it's bad? No, it's entirely a content game. So, like, if you review it, and this is the thing, a lot of journalists are ahead of the curve on this. A lot of the guys who would review something like Depression Quest and give it like an 8 or a 9 is because they have played millions of games. They are very attuned to the fact that actually content matters, and that it's an interesting part of the subject of the question of what games are, completely independent of how they function, right? My interpretation of GamerGate essentially is that there's a core of fans who are about 5 to 10 years behind that sort of thinking, that they still pretty much think like, hey, no, it's cool, like, I'm into, you should make whatever game you want to make. Depression Quest, you want to make a Depression Quest, that's cool, but it's unfair in that meritocratic sort of way to evaluate it on the basis of, like, you know, to give it like a high score because its gameplay is clearly bad. And what they haven't really kind of taken on board is their sense of that scale is just out of date. We're bigger than that now. That thing I mentioned about, like, are there a billion gamers and therefore are you going to take all those audiences and all those tastes and all those ideas on board, or are you going to insist that it's still actually a kind of gamers in the smaller sense kind of club? You can't have both at the same time. Well, so, like, I'm going to go with saying, let's say there's a billion gamers. Fine, that means you have to accept that there are going to be many, many views and many, many ways of looking at games that don't come from the traditional roots. And that's good. That's a really good thing.
That's right, but and I get all that. But let's talk about the male-female part of it, because, I mean, like, that seems like at the crux of all of this, right? Like, why does there have to be a differentiation between what the male or female journalist / game developer, you know, why is that part of it? Because to me, that's at the heart of it. Like, a female, or Scorsese or whatever. I always forget her name. How do you
Anita
say it?
Sarkeesian.
Sarkeesian.
Yep.
She does a review / journalistic kind of thing about something.
No, she doesn't. That's often confused. She doesn't. Anita Sarkeesian is an academic.
YouTube's.
She's an academic critic. Like if you actually sit down and look at any of her essays in detail, they're college essays. Like what they are is like a detailed critical cultural examination based on certain cultural values and a particular critical lens, and it's all very, very, very dense kind of material that's intended for an academic audience. Like that's who it's for. Right? It's for professors and stuff.
That makes sense,
right? But most people don't actually understand that. They think it's actually having a go at them, and it's not.
Well, I don't think it's having a go at them at all.
No,
so
but a lot of
yeah. Well, Tim, and I'll go back to that because actually I think that's interesting. But what I'm saying is that like you have someone who's talking about games, right? Not making them. That's all I mean.
Yeah.
And then you have Samantha or other people that we know that are making games that are females. So I'm still trying to figure out wherein lies the hatred / anger towards. Is it towards games journalists who are women? Is it towards games developers who are women? And where in that thread lies? Because I don't understand that. Like, is it towards the journalist part of it? Like, hey, females, don't say things about games. Or is it, hey, females who are making games, we don't like you? Like, where is that little group? Who are they mad at the most?
So I heard an interesting thing that said a lot of it was to do with the idea that women who speak up, there's an interpretation that tends to come out of guys in general, that women who speak up, and this is not just games, this is in lots of different fields, we guys tend to interpret them speaking up first and foremost as them using their womandom in some way that seems like outside the context of the argument, and we tend to assume that they shouldn't because the default argument is based on just whatever they're talking about. So it seems like they're already trying to stack the deck or something. It's bullshit, but apparently guys tend to do that. We kind of.
I don't, and I'm monstrously.
I speak in terms
you speak
of.
Of
Like,
I know. Right, but I have to like literally say something now because like that is. If that's what that is.
That is a lot of what that.
Like
is.
I literally, while you were talking, had like fire in my chest.
Right. Yeah, and me too, man.
Because that is so insane.
Yeah, exactly right.
It doesn't even make any sense to the logical brain.
Right.
Oh, this is.
Right.
Sorry, I can only just
like a good just bellwether example is you had Chris Clue at the end. Did you see this?
Yes, I did see this.
It's epic.
I shared his stuff.
Chris Clue, the former NFL player, who's a gamer, who's a big Warcraft player, came out with this huge diatribe on Medium, like where it's kind of epic how much like he just goes to town on game.
He said everybody who's involved in this GamerGate needs to get genital warts.
Right.
That are going to fuck you up forever or something.
Right.
Like
so he does that. Felicia Day then the very next day posts a very timid, I'm just sort of kind of concerned. And I'm even concerned about putting this out there because like, I wonder about the backlash and stuff, but I'm just trying to say that we should all get along. Like
something nice.
Her post is right. She gets doxxed within 50 minutes of that. Like somebody posts her address and stuff and He does not get anything at all. He actually went on Reddit onto Kotaku in Action. And it was like, you see, this is an example of how unfair you are.
Yeah.
None of you fuckers have even bothered to come at me because you're like, oh, he's a guy.
Yeah.
You go after every girl.
Yeah.
Right?
And he did it right after that happened. He was like, fuck you, bitches.
Right.
And they're like, still didn't do anything to him.
No.
I'm like, what the fuck? Right. And by the way, just so you know, for reference, we have a lady present right now and 2 males. What does that do for us? Like, are we going to be fine? Like,
well, that's it. Yeah.
Like, partially we'll be fucked?
Is Kinsey going to get grief? I don't know. Right?
I mean...
Kinsey better not, because I will murder everyone who does that.
I haven't said anything public about...
And, hold on. Dum. Here's the intro music.
I haven't said anything public about Gamergate.
Which is bullshit that you should even be afraid to.
And, like, I'm no Felicia Day. I mean, let's be real here. I mean, like... I don't have the reach of her.
Yeah.
Sure.
But at the same time, like, I contribute to a YouTube channel that is 99% male viewership.
Mm-hmm.
If I come out, like... against this kind of thing and I publicly say that I'm a feminist, which you heard it here first on the Video Game Break podcast, guys. But I mean, like, what's that going to do to me?
Right.
What's that going to do to the channel I contribute to? Because like most people who follow me and most people who talk to me every single day are because of that YouTube channel.
Right. And they're dudes.
And
Most.
all of them are.
Yeah.
Right.
But I will say this one thing. It's just like I said in the last episode. The simplest version of this whole thing, and we can kind of like put it into one little quick thing, is that I just don't want to see the differentiation between like male and female. Like it doesn't matter. Like that should not matter. This shouldn't be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Sure. And that's the crux of this whole thing. Is like if you want to say something, I don't like the idea of feminist. Like the word feminist maybe scares some like ignorant people or whatever. They're like, I don't like the idea of that thing that you were saying when you were saying that whole statement, and I had the fire in my chest.
Yeah.
That thing, that ignorance, it might be because the key words like feminism and stuff like that.
Right.
How about just Kinsey's a cool person who plays video games?
Right.
I'm a cool person who plays video games. Tadhg's a cool person. Like that, like the level of our coolness, and which I'll, by the way, subscribe to. Like maybe I'm not cool, but like the coolness I'll get down with. But if you're like, you have boobs and I have a dick. Oh, there's differences.
I have had
no reason.
Like, full disclosure.
Please.
I have had one paying job in the video game industry ever. Mm-hmm. I've already been accused of getting it because of my boobs.
Oh, right.
I already have.
Yeah.
Because that's what you did in the interview. Or like, hi, I'd like to work for you.
Shelf.
These.
Right.
Yeah, and all I did was send my resume, and and it was even during like a celebratory dinner at a bar.
Right.
Where I was like, hey, I got this great job. I'm so excited. And one guy was just like, you only got it because of your boobs.
Yeah. But that is...
And I was like, well, thanks for... And at first I tried to explain it to him. First I was very much like, he's my friend's friend. I'm going to be nice. And I tried to explain it to him. And he just kept digging at it.
Sure. Yeah.
And finally I was like, well, thanks for listening to my accomplishments. If I was a man...
You would never have that conversation.
You never would have cared.
Right.
But you just think that we're past that now. You
think we are. And then GamerGate.
See, that's why I kept trying to make jokes like during this conversation with this guy. And I was like, well, this.
Right,
yeah.
right.
But then he's like, no.
Right.
Yeah.
This. And I'm like,
well, you know what?
All right.
We're not going to go here.
Right.
But I'm going to put this out there that certain versions of racism and other things that we go, we should be past this by now. And then we go, oh, wait, 1950s, we were had separate areas for people.
Right.
You know what I mean? And me being a minority still, I still get weird shit.
Right.
You're like, really?
Right.
This is 2014. So you're surprised, but then sometimes you're not because you're like, oh, yeah, I guess it's not like a million years past racism or sexism.
Right.
But at the same time, I think a lot of us want to be evolved. We want to get to that next stage.
We should be past this. When I post videos on YouTube, I want people to comment about the games I talk about. I want people to comment about, did I present the game well? Did I not? Not just, oh, she's cute but kind of fat. That's pretty much all the comments I get.
Yeah.
Right. I saw a talk by Lee Alexander gave a talk at XOXO in Portland. There we go. Portland link again. A few weeks
Portland's amazing, guys.
There you go, man. But she talked a lot about
Can I? Oh, we can talk on the podcast. We're getting beer.
May I have a
beer? Can I have one of your beers? Which beer is this?
Yeah, you can have one of mine. That's his
yours?
beer.
That's mine. Yeah.
What do you want?
It's one of those, please.
Okay.
But so Lee was talking about how she's been a woman in games for years. She's written a lot about different sort of parts of games and different aspects of the kind of culture and the conversation and stuff like that. And Lee writes really, really well.
She's great.
But she said that it's almost like, I can't remember the exact quote, but she said something like it's almost like not a day goes by when she's written something or she publishes something where she doesn't get some comments back questioning her motives, her opportunities. In some cases, you get these really well-meaning commenters who come on and then wonder about her mental health. Stuff like that, where they're like, oh, she's clearly dealing with some strange issues. That explains this whole post or that kind of stuff. And guy commenters, guy posters, they just never get anything like that at all. They just never get anywhere close,
It's kind of sad. I even noticed during E3, when someone has a woman presenter, people are like, oh, well, she was either paid to be there,
right,
or there has to be some weird reason while she's there. And you're like, no, maybe she just fucking cares about games, and maybe she helped make this game, and she knows what she's talking about, and but if a guy walks on stage, people are like, "Oh, it's cool."
Yeah.
I'll listen to him.
It's the default, you know.
Yeah, it's just stupid. It's
video games' own very own version of what they used to call the Madonna horror complex. Like that sort of male centric culture is only able to look at women in one of two sort of very specific lenses. They're either mothers or they're either prostitutes, and that we don't. I say we. I don't mean Carlos and I. I mean I mean our gender. Struggles very much with being able to interpret anything that women do outside of those two axes, I guess, or poles, or whatever you want to call them. And it's completely galling. It's so depressing to watch what you think has been a whole lot of progress.
Right.
Sort of be undone. I mean, particularly now that it's broken into the mainstream press, and the mainstream press takes one look at all of this and is like, school shooting threats, yeah, gamers.
Yeah, right.
It's so weird to me that I work in the non-video game field, and I have coworkers coming up to me asking me if I've heard about this.
Yeah.
And they know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But they're not gamers. They're not even on Twitter. They're not in any of these places. They're like, I heard about this on NPR. I heard about this on MSNBC.
The front page of the New York Times.
So my thing is, and I know we're talking about it because I wanted to at least do one episode, just for future reference, you will never hear about this again on this episode, on this podcast.
Famous last words, you totally will. But
I don't think you will, because I'm going to make a mandate about it because of this statement.
Right.
The next statement is that by us talking about it, by us putting on MSNBC, we give it any credit at all, because doesn't have any.
Right.
I have, again, the fire is burning in me. It's hard to speak. There is no credit to any of this. None of this stuff is talk-worthy.
Right.
That's how strong I feel about it.
Yeah.
It's non-talk-worthy. It's almost like if we were talking about Hispanics or black people or Native Americans, which I am.
The yellow peril from China type stuff.
Yeah. This is not a topic.
Right.
So we're talking about it once, and mark my words, actually, asterisks. We'll never talk about this again, but I wanted to do it.
I've been pushing not to talk about it.
You have been pushing it, yeah. Okay. And we have a friend.
I always want to talk about it.
We have a friend here who has a Tumblr account who's actually going to... I didn't want to talk about this before because I knew you guys would be afraid, but they're actually going to push this podcast out.
Okay.
And we're going to get this message out that it shouldn't be a topic.
Sure.
And I feel like that we need to remove it from the conversation, because this minority of people doing something, they don't matter. That's the wrong statement. So,
Well,
that's
on the thing that I wrote on TechCrunch this weekend, which is sort of, I say final word, but it's probably not my final word on the matter, but it's over.
Right.
GamerGate's fucking over.
I think that was wasn't the title of your thing?
Yeah.
Something like that.
I wrote, I was a bit more snarky. I said, I wrote, so long GamerGate.
Okay.
What did you teach us? And because in terms of, and this is funny, I've had a whole lot of people on Twitter subsequently go, oh yeah, we're not dead, look, there's so many of us, look at our analytics on Topsy, whatever, right? And they're just not. Again, as is typically the case with GamerGate, they're not really understanding it. The idea that anything that quote unquote the movement has to say on any subject anymore will ever be taken seriously, those days are gone. There was maybe a period where people were sort of thinking, well, okay, there is something of a dimension to some of the stuff that they're talking about, even if they are kind of a bit intense about how they're going about it and stuff like that. But those days are over. School shootings, whatever you want to sort of tag it up to, they've been painted into the corner of being a bunch of fucking weirdos. And there they will stay.
Right.
And more to the point, they've been painted into the corner of being a bunch of ridiculous weirdos.
Right.
And you don't come back from being ridiculous.
Yeah.
People go they point at you and laugh. It's over. You're never going to take it seriously.
And when you mentioned, to be fair to whoever has been part of this bullshit in general, in the very beginning when I started hearing critics or critiques about things, about women and men, I do remember a couple moments going like, oh, there's some point there that someone made about something about journalism, right?
Sure.
So it wasn't all of it was like, I'm going to shoot you and rape you. It was, there was a couple moments of like, oh, someone's saying something about sexism or something, And I'm like, okay, I might listen to that for a minute, but then it just got fucked.
You get overwatched.
So to the small credit, and maybe we won't get attacked by saying this, because I really do think that in the beginning of whatever this whole thing was, there were certain people saying certain things about, the industry in some way.
Yeah.
But whatever they were saying, they got bombarded with a bunch of shit.
And that's all long gone now. Exactly, yeah.
I do kind of think that this whole thing was a backstep for women in a way, though. Like, I promised myself I wasn't going to talk about this, but it's so pertinent that I have to.
We are currently talking about it. We are actually in the middle of talking.
But
you're here now.
I actually had a fan of mine, which I've never been able to say publicly.
Oh.
A fan of mine tweet at me, and I apologize if you listen to this, but they asked me, do you believe in this whole misogyny thing? And misogyny was in quotes.
Right.
Oh, like it's not a thing.
Like it's not a thing.
Right. Loaded question.
Yeah.
Right.
And I have a kind of, since I haven't been public about any of this, it's on Twitter, if anyone can see it, So I was trying to reply in a way that showed what I thought, but represented the brand that they knew me from.
Yeah.
And I was like, of course it's a thing. Like, it happens to people every single day. Like, and I was trying really hard not to be like, are you kidding me? How can you not see this is a thing?
Right.
And, like, as diplomatic as my response was, I still got back, oh, I'm really surprised to hear you say that. You're so, like, cool and laid back and you like games.
And you can still also be cool and laid back and believe in that issue.
And I don't know. It was one of those things that just, like, astounded me.
I think some of that's... So I do think there's a battle to be won here. And it's not a question of like, oh my God, throw my hands up and walk away from like all things kind of gamer as a result. I mean, there was definitely a phase when I was just like, oh God, gaming, Jesus Christ, like type of stuff, right? But no, because I said I've talked with a lot of GamerGate. There's a bunch of people who've hazed me on Twitter, and I've just blocked them and been like, get away, you're in troll mode. I don't care. But I actually have had a bunch of quite reasonable conversations with people, particularly recently. Around certain aspects of it, and I've come to feel that there is, although GamerGate itself is extreme, there is a moderate core within GamerGate, I think, that is savable.
Yeah, I kind of felt like the person who was asking me these questions
it's just like
honestly did not understand.
His frame of reference.
It was different.
Right. But that's not that means that's someone who's like talkable to, not somebody who's like actively hazing you or that kind of thing, right?
That's someone who can learn.
Yeah, right. The conversation went all right, which is good, I think.
And so I do actually, weirdly, and it's kind of strange to say, given this has been going like for 2 months, right? I have some hope that in the long term, there'll be a lot of people who are currently GamerGaters who, like, once they've, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, once they've grown up a little bit, they'll realise that it was sort of a bit nuts, and they'll realise that they were sort of a bit nuts kind of within all of it, and that actually they kind of ended up running with some people that in retrospect they're like, oh no, that dude's actually fucking nuts, right?
That happens in mob mentality. Right. We watched it recently. What was that thing that where was that? Where they just like burning down shoe stores and stuff.
Right.
Oh, WTO?
There'll be people who like...
No, but...
that was like 10 years ago.
That's like a long time ago.
Have you run across your man, what's his name, Milo Yiannopoulos, for example? He's the journalist from Breitbart who like writes a lot of the most ridiculous art. He's the guy who like claims that the Game Journal Pro website, mailing list constituted a conspiracy, and Breitbart is a London-based, very far right news rag, pretty much, and he's a journalist out there, and he's made a lot of bones off of GamerGate, even though like 6 months to a year previously he was writing very much like gamers are sad saps kind of articles, but like all the best kind of pundits out there, he's completely flipped, and suddenly he's all for the cause, right?
Yeah.
But the I'm sure, I actually think there's a lot of like more moderate GamerGaters who will, like I say, 6 months to a year from now will go like, man, I retweeted that guy.
What was I doing?
And he turned out to be a complete wanker.
Yeah.
But, oh God.
Well,
what was I doing? Do you know that kind of? I fully think that there's a whole lot of people who are just going to sort of effectively go there.
Along those lines.
They're not going to come out and say, yeah, I was wrong. But
internally they will.
Yeah, they'll be just like, yeah, actually, that was just, there was a mania there. And,
yeah. Along those lines, I will say the only positive that could come out of it is what you just said, or a variation of it, is that people can wake up from their ignorance, right? Maybe it's such a big like focal point that people are like, what is this thing? Oh, why are these people saying these things? And like, maybe I want to research what this is about, and maybe I can realize that, you know, my friend or this website I listen to, or this person on Twitter is wrong.
Right.
And then I didn't even know that the whole time. It's almost like, I hate to say it, but like tragedy creates,
comedy.
Positive stuff or comedy. And like, you go, well, maybe this shitty thing that's built out of ignorance has to happen so that people will like wake up and go, oh.
I think so.
Yeah.
The internet actually has a good history of reason prevailing over time. And I tend to, I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and I think that is, if you look closely at what's going on and some of the conversations that you can now have with self-admitted gamergaters or whatever on Twitter and stuff, I'm starting to pick up on that a lot. People are more willing to go, okay, like they're asking, do you understand my point of view? And I go, I do actually, and I talk to them at length about it, and I say, but it's wrong. and then I say, but this is why.
Yeah.
And I've come to numerous situations now where, say, the person on the other end of the conversation goes, well, this was actually really interesting. Thank you.
Right, yeah.
Right? And that's what you want.
It is, yeah.
I don't expect people to flip overnight and become like crazy liberals or whatever.
And plus, when you attack, people attack back.
That's right.
Right?
And
you're like,
I'm not
you're
perfect.
fucking retarded. And they're like, shut up.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. I have definitely had my time. I've lost my shit a few times on Twitter, saying something particularly egregious or whatever. But
story of my life.
Yeah, right, man. But I feel there's a moderate thing coming through, I think.
I'm sorry. I was gonna say, we get it. You're poor. I don't know why. It was so out of context.
See, the worst part about that.
Time out.
Yeah, I need the loot.
He needs the loot. Go to the loot.
Excuse me.
Well, he already did it once.
I beat already. You didn't even notice. Yeah.
I don't know.
I did on the sly.
I don't know the ethics of podcasting.
The ethics of this podcast is there's no ethics, but in a good way.
See, I kind of want to compose a very good tweet. One. And something along... I've been thinking about this for weeks, actually, which is really sad that I don't have it nailed down yet.
Yeah.
Something along the lines of, I can be, a gamer. I can be awesome. I can be fun. I can love all these things. But I'm also a feminist. And that doesn't make me a bad person.
Yeah.
It doesn't make me hate any, people.
Yeah.
I love video games. I love people who like video games. I want to play them all the time. But... Come on. Come on, people.
Well, let's educate again and again. That's why I think this podcast is actually helpful, because we've used a lot of words like retarded, which I should have said special, and we've been kind of aggro at times about people who are ignorant on the subject. Ignorance just means you don't know things, which is fine. Like, we're all ignorant to certain subjects.
Yeah.
So feminism doesn't mean, for anyone listening, that a woman hates a man.
No.
Right? Which I think that a lot of younger people, or younger guys, think that that's what that means. Like, oh, I'm a feminist. That means I want to change the rules of how this is going down. I don't want to make it women-controlled and some sort of weird women version of the world, right? That's not what that means. That means equality. That means, understanding that I have these properties and you have these properties and let's work together. Like, that's what that means.
Yeah, that basically means, equal pay... Equal representation, equality. That's what it means. Mm-hmm. How about the girl's not always a sex symbol? These ideas aren't that difficult to attain.
Right.
I think we're on the right track.
We are, and I think that entertainment media in general hasn't done it any favors, right?
No, that's true.
When you think of a movie that has a feminist in it, or a documentary about a feminist, it's like they're blowing up buildings, or they're doing some crazy shit that makes them crazy or something. And maybe the general masses goes like, well, I think of this as a threat, right? It shouldn't be a threat. It should be like, hey, this particular species, a human being wants to...
I was like, species?
Yeah.
Us feminists.
Us feminists are different species. No.
Well, that brings up a whole new argument.
Feminazis from Mars.
No, human beings. This human being wants to be treated equally across all the different things. You know what I mean? It has nothing to do with... Yeah. So, I will also say that when we're talking about games, I think this is a very important, my last point. What's the talk show host? Jerry Springer. In closing, what did he do?
His final thought.
Final thought.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
After 35 minutes of ranting, raving, violence, people spitting and
all this stuff,
biting each other.
Yeah, biting each other.
Just 2 minutes of going, I want to reflect on that.
Oh, you guys, I didn't bite anybody during this podcast.
What is that? Huh?
I'm a little bit disappointed.
We can do it after.
Oh, there's lots of winky faces. No, I'm just kidding.
So my final thought is this, as Jerry Springer. I think the biggest thing we have to understand that we're talking about a lot of this in this podcast, and this is a video games podcast, is that I want to leave you with that video games, as part of GamerGate and as part of all the stuff we're talking about, are no different than any other entertainment medium. So you have books, you have movies, you have all these different music, you have different things that we engage in and we are entertained by. You know, we're human beings, we're walking around this planet, making ourselves laugh and feel and care about stuff through entertainment. And video games are another part of that. So anything that we do around it shouldn't be excluded from that category. We wouldn't have these conversations, or we have had these conversations around certain things, and we got over it. Oh, a female made a record? She produced a record? You know, like, whatever. Like, we got past that.
Sure.
You know? And so now, I mean, Beyonce is like one of the biggest fucking pop stars in the world, you know, or music stars. So this is, to me, it's not just ignorance, it's also just kind of growing up.
Yes.
In this part of the games thing.
Right.
It's like, oh, games still.
Right.
It's baffling to us, all three of us who are in the industry in some way, to be like, really? You're calling it a thing still?
Right.
It's still, it's any other medium. It's the entertainment part of it.
Right.
So I think that my biggest like final thought is that, you know, whatever you would do in any other medium, do it the same way, because games are no different.
Sure.
If a woman makes a game or writes about a game or does anything around video games, it's like she would be a film critic or a music critic or a music, you know, producer or an artist.
Right.
Yep. Well, my final thought.
Please, now we're all doing final thoughts.
Well, I mean, it seems like we should.
Oh,
Yeah.
now Tadhg will do one after this.
Yeah, no, we have to. It's a Jerry Springer tradition, which apparently we've adopted.
Starts right now.
I guess, I mean, all I really have to say is I remember that a time when games were really fun and it wasn't involved around politics, and that women are in games and they're not fucking going anywhere.
That's a real final thought.
That's a good
Period.
That is a goddamn good final thought.
I like that thought.
My final thought is games will survive this, and I think they will survive it in that new form that they're moving toward.
Mm-hmm.
So we're never, ever, 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 ever going to go back to some slightly nostalgic version of how we think things used to be. I mean, it's fun to talk about retro games and stuff. You and I have done that on podcasts a few times and whatever. But, you know, the past is the past. The way that the past was is the way that the past was. And we think about it fondly because it's the past.
Mm-hmm.
That we can't carry on like as though the past is eternal, or those like it's got some all-time rules attached to it that somehow, you know, dictate how things are always ever going to be. Games are bigger than they were. That's what we wanted back in the day. We wanted the games industry to not sort of just be this little sideline subculture. And you know what? We won. They're
Mm-hmm.
not. We got there. But we're naive in the extreme if we think that they were going to maintain that same outsider shape in the process. Of course they're not. They're going to change. It's going to be like the difference between folk music in the 60s versus pop music in the 80s. Like that kind of thing. So I, for one, think it's amazing that people like Zoe Quinn exist. I, for one, want to see 100 more, 1,000 more Zoe Quinns.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see a whole lot more diversity. I want to see a whole lot more mainstream acceptance of and promotion of and all that kind of stuff of games that are coming from what's this really cool, like, artistic fringe,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think it's absolutely inevitable that is going to happen. So deal with it.
Deal with it. Tadhg, what's your Twitter?
I am Tadhg Tiger on the Twitter, and I'm also on TechCrunch and Gamasutra, and I run my own site called whatgamesare.com, which writes all about game design.
I feel like you said what with a...
What with a H.
What, yeah.
Yeah, what.
Yeah.
Have you seen Family Guy?
Yes, I know. Point you to a specific episode.
What?
I'm on the Twitter, ONAWA. Our Video Game Break Twitter is at Video Game Break.
I am on Twitter at Kinzilla, at KINSZILLA, and you can also find me on YouTube at Metal Jesus Rocks.
And you're on this podcast.
And this podcast at videogamebreak.net.
That didn't seem contrived at all. And we're on the iTunes, so subscribe to us and Leave a comment if you want. I don't care because I'm not like that person was like, leave a comment or we're not going to make it.
Comments are dead.
We love comics.
But you should rate us 5 stars.
Right.
Yeah, you should do that.
Given.
You should do that.
Yeah, that's a given. Yeah.
We are blatantly pandering.
Yes. And good evening.
Thanks.